Madam Chair, we're ready.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's the Lyon County Board of County Commissioners, Thursday, October 6th, 2022 at 9-something a.m.
9 a.m. somewhere.
Exactly. Action will be taken on all items unless otherwise noted. No action will be taken on any item until it's properly agendized. To avoid meeting disruptions, please place cell phones and beepers in silent mode or turn them off during the meeting. The board reserves the right to take items in a different order to accomplish business in the most efficient manner. Items may be combined for consideration and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. Restrictions on comments by the general public. Any such restrictions must be reasonable and may restrict the time, place, and manner of the comments, but may not restrict comments based upon viewpoints. Board of Commissioners convening as other boards. Members of the Board of County Commissioners also serve as the Liquor Board, Central Lyon Vector Control District Board, Mason Valley Mosquito Abatement District Board, Walker River Weed Control District Board, Willow Creek General Improvement District Board, the Silver Springs General Improvement District Board, and during this meeting may convene as any of those boards as indicated on this or a separately posted agenda.
Can you breathe so we don't pick you up off the ground?
Note this meeting may break between 11:30 and 1:30 for lunch. Roll call. Note that all 5 commissioners are present and in chambers. Next, I'm going to ask you to please rise. We have an invocation given by John Poundstone of Joy Church. And following that, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we in heaven, we humbly come before you. We acknowledge that in so many ways, it seems as though our nation and our state may be turning our backs toward you, maybe even thumbing our noses. We acknowledge history that says it's the local businesses, local schools, local families, and local government that leads the charge that will turn a state and turn a nation. We thank you for the awesome privilege it is to live in just such a county. We do not take this burden and this responsibility and this privilege lightly. So I ask your providence, I ask your presence, I ask your guidance as we approach this meeting, the meetings to come, the upcoming midterm elections. Father, through the power of your Holy Spirit, please turn hearts and minds back toward integrity, back toward the arc of history, back toward you. I thank you again that we live in such a county where a Board of County Commissioners and our local government officials are so conscientious, who do act in integrity, who do their very, very best, their utmost to form and keep a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So again, I ask your hand, I ask your presence, your providence, your guidance upon this meeting today. And I thank you for all those who serve us. It's in the masterful name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Commissioner Gray, could you please lead us in the pledge?
Ready? Begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Okay, at this time, we're going to go to public participation. No action will be taken on any item until it's properly agendized. It is anticipated that public participation will be held at this time, though it may be returned to at any time during the agenda. Citizens wishing to speak during public participation are asked to state their name for the record and will be limited to 3 minutes. The board will conduct public comment after discussion of each agenda action item, but before the board takes any action. Afterwards, please print your name for the clerk at the clerk's desk. And if you're on Zoom, please spell your name. So this is public participation for something that's not on the agenda. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Any hands? Okay, seeing none.
None on Zoom.
Were you going to stand up, sir?
Yes.
Oh.
Sorry.
My name's Jim Denning. My wife and I reside at 1 Rio Vista here in Yerington. We've been here for 4 years. Out of that 4 years, the first 3 months were pleasant and we felt safe and secure. The last 3 months, we have been in the same situation, self and secure. The occupant of 20 Palomino was a guest of the state the first 3 months. Last 3 months, he was a guest of the county. We had been before the commissioners in 2019 and a few times in 2020. And we thought we were making some headway to get this problem taken care of. COVID hit, everything came to a stop. It got worse. We had people in that neighborhood running around all times of day and night. Vagrants, transients, staying on the property, wandering around our neighborhood. Situations where there was breaking and entering and petty thefts, that kind of situation. Also, an increase of hazardous traffic. I can't tell you how many almost head-ons, how many almost rollovers. We live on a 90-degree turn, and it was just horrendous. Problem being as of late is that code enforcement is involved. The sheriff department, of course, county manager, I thought was involved. And I don't understand that there doesn't seem to be any plan or any way that this is supposed to be handled. I've heard 2 or 3 different things. The house caught on fire. It was condemned and red tagged. They're in there. There's old trailers, a motorhome and that's in there, and people are living in those. They scatter kind of, for lack of better terms, like cockroaches. The lights come on and they're all gone, and then they come back out at night. Need to find out what the policy is for this. I've heard 3 different things, 3 different agencies, and it needs to be, rectified to where the sheriffs know what they have to do, when they have to do it. I don't know. This has been going on. We've only
I
been
apologize, but your time is actually up.
okay.
But I do want to make one comment. As most people are aware, we do have a new interim county manager.
Yes.
The sheriff is here and with us today. So maybe you can strike up a new conversation to find out where we're at. I remember you coming before us, and I know things were looked into, but I don't know where we're at, to be honest.
Yes,
So
I've spoken to both the sheriff and Mr. Haskins, and things are coming together. I passed out a petition that has 65 signatures on it. That to each of you, that I would appreciate it if you read it, Matt. Unfortunately, I've got to get out of here this morning, due in Reno, to pick up our great granddaughter. But any of you that would like to call me, I would appreciate speaking to each and every one of you. 775-445-9052. Thank you very much.
get that.
Can you repeat that number one more time, please, sir? Can you repeat that number one more time, please?
445.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have
Next.
a follow-up, Jim. I'm a neighbor.
Okay, state your name for the record, please.
Carrie Kern. And we are here again from the Rio Vista Estates and surrounding neighborhood pertaining to the nuisance code 6.01.02 pertaining to the same property on 20 Palomino. And I believe it's been about 2 years. We were here last time, and nothing has been done until January 11th on the 2022, when a fire ignited at night inside the house. And the residents did not call the fire department. They tried to put it out on their own, and endangering the lives of the whole neighborhood and our property. And luckily, they were able to suppress the fire before the fire department arrived. And after that, sheriffs issued arrest for drugs, child endangerment, and maintaining a nuisance property. And since then, a dumpster has been put on the property, and they have done some cleanup. But last month or so, the process has stalled, and it still stands as is today with a gutted house and approximately 90% of the nuisance material still on site. And this property has been deemed uninhabitable due to the fire and existing conditions. But as Jim says, there's still people coming and going in and out of the property, living in the gutted house or on the trailers still on site. And as taxpayers, we still urge the Lyon County Commissioners and the code enforcement officer to please stay on top of this situation until the property is cleaned up and is no longer a nuisance to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm Connie Denning, Jim's wife. He forgot to show this paper, all these papers. There's 95 pages that are full of the calls that was at 20 Palomino in the last 4 years. And that's all I have to say.
But can I ask a quick question of county manager?
Go ahead.
Mr. Haskin, sorry, I gotta quit saying that.
I know I
Quick
just
que-
called him Andrew out of habit.
So quick question, who, and it may, but it may not be you that actually answers this, but I'll start with you. Who has jurisdiction once property's red tagged to keep people out of there? Is it the fire marshal, the sheriff's department, code enforcement?
Andrew Haskin, interim county manager. So it would be the sheriff's department, and we have been working with them. We've also been working with the district attorney's office on this project. It has been a code enforcement issue for quite some time, and working to get it cleaned up. We in fact I had a meeting with the district attorney probably 2 weeks ago regarding this property and how to move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? Seeing none, we're gonna move to number 5, possible action, review and adoption of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, the only thing I might recommend is if we move 7B in front of some of the time certains, or these gentlemen might be here a while, and ladies.
Oh, okay. Well, we have something else getting moved to, or being incorporated in here. I'll try to work them together.
Did you want to get back to vote?
Oh, well, I was gonna see if
Yeah.
Commissioner Gray wanted to.
I'll just try to pull it up a little bit quicker. Not necessarily right this minute.
Right. All right, thank you.
Not a problem. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we're gonna jump into our first time certain, and then we'll get to the rest of the agenda. The first time certain is 6A. 9 a.m. public hearing, bill number 22-11. For possible action, approve an ordinance to amend Lyon County Code Title 15, the Lyon County Land Use and Development Code Table 15.320-1 in order to permit agricultural tourism subject to a conditional use permit, CUP, in the RR10 and RR5 zoning districts and other matters pertaining thereto.
All right, Andrew Haskin, interim county manager. So it was pointed out to me that I did kind of a bad job of explaining why we went down this road with agricultural tourism amendments. So I kind of wanted to go over it again. I know a lot of times I usually throw out the option about not doing the second presentation because it's the same, but I did make some changes to this one. So I will try to run through it pretty fast. All right, so what got this conversation started was we had a gentleman approach us about putting a tasting room at his residential property that was zoned RR5, which is 5 acre minimum. And he has a vineyard on site where he grows grapes. He processes the grapes off site though. And so as staff, we were sitting down, looking through our code, trying to figure out, what the requirements would be. And we found out that there was a hole in our code. And so there were some things that didn't make sense. And so that's what really this ordinance is trying to correct. And I'm going to go over that here real quick. So you can see here, this is from our land use table, and this is regarding the rural residential land uses or zoning districts. And we have in that table both standards or uses of a winery and a vineyard. And you can see that a vineyard can go down to 1 acre minimum, and a winery can go down to 5 acre minimum, by right, permitted by right. And so I'm gonna explain why that's important here, and I'm gonna get into some definitions on the two. If you see the definition of a winery here in 15.1200, and a winery is an establishment that manufactures an alcoholic beverage through fermentation of the natural content of fruits or other agricultural products containing sugars on site, and is authorized to sell those fermented beverages at retail or served by the glass pursuant to the provisions of NRS 597. An important piece of this definition here, though, adds that sales areas, sampling areas, food service, dancing, and music entertainment are permitted, subject to applicable state and county regulations. So if the gentleman had a winery on his property, he could essentially do the tasting room permitted by right, wouldn't need to come before the board or community development for any other. Well, yeah, I think he would need an administrative design review, but that would be the only entitlement that would be needed. So then you take a look at, again, back at the table, and that is allowed down to 5 acres. But then you take a look at the definition of a vineyard, and of course, it doesn't have anything in there about the tasting room. And so in staff's mind, we were kind of inadvertently encouraging a more intense use by not having that in the definition. However, when we thought about adding that to the definition of a vineyard, then that would allow it down to 1 acre, which I think could create some challenges. So the second thing that we looked at was, okay, would it be allowed under the home-based business or home occupations portion of our code? And so you see, we have these two uses in code already. Home-based businesses and home occupations go down to the 1 acre level, as you can see there. And so in looking at the definitions of home-based businesses, you can see I highlighted a couple important ones, but there are several in here. But one of them is the cottage food operations conformant with all requirements within NRS 446. And to me, that use seems pretty similar to the tasting room. The other thing is you could have a fine arts or artisan studio on site or other similar low impact endeavors. But again, tasting room was specifically left out. Same with home-based businesses. This one allows for cottage food operations again, and farm to fork events subject to compliance with Nevada Revised Statutes 446. So again, very similar uses to what we're proposing with this ordinance. So the proposed change, and I have already been over this part, would be to allow for agricultural tourism subject to a conditional use permit, which you'll note is more restrictive than what we have in the table as far as the winery and the home-based business thing. But I do think that because there are some other associated uses with agricultural tourism that we want to make sure aren't having impacts on the neighbors, we feel that the conditional use permit is appropriate. And you can see here in the definition, I mean, there's a few other things such as you pick farm sales, retail sales of farm products, farm mazes, pumpkin patches and such. So really the proposed change in the ordinance is just adding two Cs to the chart, which would require the conditional use permit for the agricultural tourism. It was already allowed in RR20 zoning district for conditional use permit. So we felt that was continuing that on down to 5 acres would be appropriate. And again, part of the reason that we went that direction was we already have performance standards for ag tourism. This use would be subject to the already existing performance standards within code. And I can go through them if you'd like, but I know that I've already gone through them in the past. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Andrew? Commissioner Hawkins.
So first of all, we're looking at a much better presentation this time. What I'm looking at here is the comment that basically they can already do this. If that's the case, then we've got, they can have their business, do home business or occupation business. We're looking at a winery, which the winery, of course, is a place where you produce wine. If we look at the definitions, a vineyard doesn't bother anybody. I got plants on the property. Of a winery doesn't bother anybody really because I'm producing wine. I understand it says things in there about serving food and dancing and doing all that stuff. My biggest concern is it's rural residential. It's not rural ag tourism residential. I definitely think that my constituents that have RR5 and 10 built because it's a residential area. They are not building to bring tourists to our residential area. So I'm looking at the low impact also for the businesses. If I'm growing grapes, nobody cares. If I'm making wine, nobody cares. If I'm inviting people to a wine tasting room, I might have 20 or 30 people driving down the roads in my rural residential area every day. That is not low impact. So I'm concerned about the traffic. And you say, well, conditional use permit, are we going to say you can only have 5 people a day? Or can they have 50 or 100 people driving in and parking on the property? I get a little concerned about making those changes since people have already purchased property in the past. And Title 15 said, basically, it's not permitted under those things that we're looking at for ag tourism. We can always look at the other areas that you're looking at, but I look at growing grapes, turning them into wine, and then wine tasting turns the wine into drunk drivers. Okay. That's the way I've always looked at it because I've been a bartender and I know how wine turns people into drunk drivers. And I don't want them driving around my residential areas. So bottom line, that's what I'm concerned with.
Sure. And so I guess, again, if they have a winery where they're actually making it on site, they can already do the wine tasting, as I stated in my presentation. So that's where I thought, you, like I said, you're inadvertently encouraging kind of a broader operation on a smaller parcel. It's already allowed. From that standpoint, the issue is here is that in this particular instance, somebody wanted to make the wine off site and not have that impact on the residential lot. So, and just because of the technicality there, we couldn't permit it. So that was where the hole in the code, in my opinion, is. The other thing is you asked about whether or not you can limit the number of occupants there. The answer is absolutely with the conditional use permit. You can do that. It would be naturally limited anyway, because you have to provide offsite parking per the performance standards. So all parking has to be off street. So on a 5-acre lot, if you're growing grapes and you've got a house and you've got a tasting room, how many parking spots could you potentially have? So that's that would be the rationale.
Well, appreciate your answer. I still think that the easiest thing would be to reduce that out of the winery part and leave things alone so that we don't have to worry about one person getting a wine tasting room. And basically that's what we're doing. One person requested and now we're making changes based on one person requesting. Yes, we're trying to fill in holes, but I'm not happy with going from rural residential to rural ag tourism residential. That's not what I want my property and most of my property owners, and at least in Smith and Mason and up through a lot of Silver Springs, are not happy with that too. Thank you.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Haskin, for the presentation. I think to me anyway, it cleared up some questions I have. But I just want you to go and reiterate, if you will, that by requiring a conditional use permit, then we can put limitations on what is allowed and what is not. Correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So with that being said, if they were to build the winery on their property, then they can have the tasting room and they wouldn't be subject to the CUP.
Correct.
Oh, hey, let's build a winery, guys. I'll come help. Anyways, just wanted to clarify that. So if they go one route, no CUP, but if we approve this, then we can condition it.
Correct.
Okay, Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I have a question. So if I live on a 5,000 square foot lot, I can open a home business and I can sell all the Scentsy candles I want, and I can have 500 people come to me a day.
No, so I'd have to look at code to see how far that goes down. I want to say it's only down to half acre.
Okay, so, all right, so I was being maybe too dramatic. So let's say half acre. I live on a half acre lot and I sell Scentsy candles. I can have, there's no limit to the number of people that can come by.
No, there are, there's performance standards for home-based businesses. I didn't get into the performance standards because that's really not what we're discussing, but there are performance standards on the impacts of a home-based business.
So we regulate how many people can come in and go.
Yeah, there's some performance standards. I don't know if there's specific language in there to it could be 5 an hour or something. I don't think there is, but there are some conditions in there related to that.
All right.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Steve, right? If you're parked in back, they are starting to tow vehicles for the chip seal project. So just a heads up, I think,
I thought it said the 7th.
Yeah,
It said the 7th. I just checked the sign.
7, I thought they are.
So you moved our truck?
So if
The sign
You're
said the
kidding
7th.
me.
I checked the sign.
it said third, some of them say third, I don't know what the sign says, but I just want to let everybody in the room know.
Let's take a
If
break,
you're
please.
parked in the back, we should probably take a break. So people. can-
We're gonna take a, well, wait a, I know we should take a break, but we're right in the middle of an agenda item. Well, I guess we're
Yeah.
taking a break.
One at a time.
Yeah.
One at a time.
group discount.
Madam Chair, we're ready when you are.
I'm getting there. Hang on one second. I'm getting my thing back up.
Did you get your truck back?
Yeah, they didn't take it all the way to the yard. They just took it down around the corner, down the street. Scott, walk down and get it. Okay, we're in the middle of an agenda item. But hopefully everybody went and got their vehicles put where they need to be. So we're gonna call this meeting back to order. So I believe we left off with questions and answers with Mr. Haskin. So any more questions from the board? No? Okay, I'm gonna go to public comment and limited to 3 minutes. So I know we have at least a couple people here that would like to comment. So if you can come up and state your name for the record and.
Good morning. I am Dr. Christine Lennox. I reside in Silver Springs with my husband. And we are very fortunate to have the vineyard that we are hoping to share with our community and friends. And I assure you, just listening to the fears would be my fears as well. We have no intention of people coming and partying and getting drunk. It is sharing this beautiful opportunity we have that we have been able to purchase from my husband's father. We are very interested in continuing to work with UNR on the agricultural benefits of having wineries in our area and growing grapes. As you might wonder, how in the world are these grapes growing here in Nevada? Well, they are, and they're beautiful and they're doing well. With our partnership with Nevada Grape Growers, a club, we are looking to build this industry in Northern Nevada and have some more economical benefit to our region. We are looking forward to sharing with our community, our schools. Right now, how we harvest, we partner with the school out of Reno. Their kids come down and they pick the grapes and then we donate to them for their band instruments and stuff. We look forward to continuing that, but we'd like to do it within our community under a special use permit or whatever. Yes, limited cars. This is our home. We just would like to share and continue on this dream we have of this beautiful opportunity. UNR is just coming on board. They have some studies down in Southern Nevada, very different than up here. So we're looking forward to continuing to work with them and use this opportunity to study grapes in Northern Nevada and see if this is something that could benefit our.
Thank you. Don't forget to sign your name. Do I have anybody else for public comment? Please go ahead and step up if you're going to comment on this item.
Yes, I'm Mike Lennox. I'm married to the good doctor. Very lucky. We started this project, and one of the main reasons why we decided to put to make the wine down and my manufacturing property down in town. The nature of the business is you harvest during the day, and by the time the grapes get to you, it could be late at night, and it it's large equipment. And in a residential area, you wouldn't want your neighbor out there at midnight finishing up a run of grapes, making noise. So we looked at it and we said, the best place for the processing and making the wines down on the manufacturing, just to alleviate that headache of residential, equipment running late at night, so. We are lucky that our Grape Growers Association is working to improve commercial and just mom and pop people that just want to learn to grow grapes, and the grapes are doing well in Northern Nevada, which is good, and UNR has been very supportive. They're looking into getting back into a program to where they can have students that actually have a chance to get a job right here in Nevada in the grape industry. So we really do want to see this industry grow. So if you guys have any questions or no. So and I thank you for considering this.
Thank you, Mike. Any other public comment from in chambers here? Okay, I have Amanda Bernand online on Zoom. I'm sorry.
Hello, this is Amanda Bernand, Brinnand. And my only concern would be there are a lot of non-maintained dirt county roads. I'm actually in Stagecoach, but there's a lot of non-maintained dirt county roads in the county. And I guess if there's businesses that are using these roads, that causes a lot of dust and a lot of negative impacts for the residents that live on them. So I guess I'm just concerned with traffic and the damage that could possibly occur to these roads from other businesses that may open in neighborhoods. And, you know, it could lead to residents not being able to drive in and out of their home in a small two-wheel drive car or something. But that's my main concern, is the use of the roads, even if they are maintained by the county, especially the dirt roads or the gravel roads and the non-maintained roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Anybody else on Zoom? I'm not seeing any hands. Do we have another page?
No one else on Zoom.
Okay, Mr. Haskin, I have a question. It seems like a lot of emphasis is going on, people driving down roads, whether they're dirt or not dirt, and added traffic. Did you happen to look into how many home-based businesses are already up and operational in Lyon County?
To be honest, I did not. No, I don't have those numbers in front of me.
I know it's a lot. I just don't know what the number is.
Yeah.
So anyways, unless somebody wants a specific number, I just want to make a comment that I know for a fact that there's many home-based businesses, may not be tasting rooms, but a lot of farm to hand, a lot of different types of home-based businesses out there all over Lyon County. A lot of them in Silver Springs, because we don't have a lot of commercial buildings for people to have a business, so they do it out of their home. So Commissioner Henderson, I saw your hand.
Yes, Madam Chair, if you're ready, I'll be happy to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I move that we approve an ordinance to amend Lyon County Code Title 15, the Lyon County Land Use and Development Code, Table 15.320-1, in order to permit agricultural tourism subject to a conditional use permit in the RR10 and RR5 zoning districts.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Commissioner Gray?
Yeah, I greatly share Commissioner Hockaday's concerns about drunk driving. Having been at tasting rooms, though, it's not, I'm much more concerned about another bar going in the area than a tasting room. A lot of those folks, they get together, they have a designated driver, they try and be, responsible about it. But one of the biggest things that I see about this is we really want to try and encourage less dense housing, shall we say, and the more agricultural uses we find and sub-agricultural uses we find, for these properties, I think the better off we are. I'm inclined to vote in favor of this, based on, those reasons, so.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, no. Please take note that the vote was 4-1. Commissioner Hockaday is the nay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now your work cut out, because now you got to get with Andrew again. So, okay, we are now pushed to 9:51 because we had an unexpected break earlier. So I am going to jump to item, was it 7B? For presentation only, present Captain Johnny Smith with a plaque recognizing him for 26 years of service to the Sheriff's Office in Lyon County. Mr. Sheriff.
Sheriff Frank Honeywell for the record. Appreciate the opportunity to come before you today and present a plaque to an individual that I had the pleasure of working with pretty much from the time Johnny started a long time ago. He didn't look as handsome as he does today, but I can't say enough about what Johnny's done for the sheriff's office, and what he's done for the county. He started as a civilian pro in the jail when I worked in the jail, did that a couple of years and decided to change uniforms and come work for the sheriff's department in a sworn capacity. And I don't know. I mean, I don't want to see him go. I tried to talk him in the stand, but when enough is enough, and it's time to go on to better things. So thank you, John. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Recognition thing. 26. The one thing I would say is I don't have anybody to really give a back time to at the office every day because he's gone, so I'm gonna have to replace him with somebody else, but well, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Did you count his inmate time towards his retirement?
We're gonna take pictures.
Do you get a picture?
Well,
Yeah, we will.
yeah, hang on one second. Well, I'm gonna throw a little hitch in everybody's giddy up. I actually had a planned break around 10 o'clock. Then we had an impromptu break. So I'm gonna actually inconvenience everybody, and we're gonna take a short break right now. We're gonna get some pictures with Johnny, and we're gonna step outside and do a quick photo op with the vehicle before these guys leave.
Oh, they towed the vehicle.
So,
Yeah, you had to pull this forward before they left.
right.
There's another piece to that, so. So again, I apologize. We're going to take probably.
Madam Chair, can we make some comments though in public?
Oh,
before we-
Before we go.
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioner Jacobs.
Captain Smith, met you, I believe, in the early 1990s at a parent-teacher conference. You look better now, I think, than you did then, man.
See, I'm not the one that said that.
I'm serious. So I wish you all the best. I've always appreciated your honesty, insight, can-do attitude, honesty on what yes or what no, it didn't matter. You weren't afraid of feelings. You were just more worried about being right and doing the right thing. And greatly respect you for that. I can only imagine how much you're going to be missed. Not just that, but just life and energy you bring to this room today. But I'm sure to the sheriff's office, and I'm sure your comrades will be making remember Johnny when he did this, remember Johnny when he said that. I can only imagine.
Okay.
No, that's a good thing. So I just want to say thank you, Captain Smith, and I wish you nothing but the best. My guess is you have a ton of open doors, whether you want to come and consult, go into an organization and see where they could make fixes or do things better. I think you have a life of a consultant, or like I said, whatever you want to do, and maybe you just want to go fishing. So I wish you all the best, and thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I won't be as verbose here, but I just remember Sergeant Smith, and when I was a reserve, you're probably one of the most decent people that I'd run into, willing to help. You know, hey, Dave, you want to go out on patrol? Let me know. We'll go do it. I just really appreciated that back in the day, and definitely gonna miss you. So hope all the best for you.
So as I go on down the line, I just want to say, as we take pictures, you are the picture of integrity and honesty in my book. And I wish you all the best. Commissioner Gray.
So Johnny, I met Johnny through my sister, the dog catcher, and I'm not going to go into all the stories, but no, Johnny's a hell of a guy, and really been good to know him, and he's not going anywhere. But I do want to clarify with Rob, with the parent and teacher conference, was he the student or the teacher or the parent?
I'm not that old.
No, but
Commissioner
he's
Gray. Now he does look better than I do.
well, at mid-90s, I was doing the math, and it might work. I mean, it might almost work. we are almost 2023 now, but no, Johnny, you're a hell of a guy. My sister passes on her congratulations and hi, and she misses you.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Captain Smith, thank you very much for your service, for your attitude, and for your professionalism. You will be missed, but thank you very much.
Okay, so we're gonna take a short break. Again.
Here's on you tonight, Johnny.
I'm gonna ask everybody to please take your seats. Okay, we're gonna call this meeting back to order. Again, sorry for the extra breaks there. We are going to move to item 6B. Time certain was at 9:15 a.m. Presentation only. Update on the activity of the Tri-County Gang Unit and their involvement in Lyon County. Sheriff Honeywell. Is that you?
So Frank Honeywell for the record, what we came today in front of you guys to do is basically give you an update on the gang task force or SI unit and the detectives. So Sergeant Justin Williams is in charge of the gang task force. And he's gonna explain how it's set up and stuff. So I won't get into that. I don't want to take anything away from him. So very informative presentation. And if you guys have any questions after we get all done, please ask. So.
Thanks, sir. All right, so like the sheriff just said, my name is Justin Williams. I'm a sergeant with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and I'm in charge of the Regional Gang Task Force, which encompasses both Douglas County and Lyon County. We wanted to just come together and give a presentation to you all and the residents about what it is our unit does to serve the community and the Lyon County Sheriff's Office. So a little bit of back history here. Back in 2009, the unit was formed between the two sheriffs in Douglas County and Lyon County as a multi-jurisdictional units. We're not confined to our individual counties. Therefore, we can go between the two counties to investigate and suppress gang activity and investigate gang crimes. We take a proactive approach, trying to reduce the appeal of gang, the draw of gang, and hit them in their membership and enforce the members or enforce crimes on members that are already in the gangs themselves. So this includes anything up to homicide all the way down to traffic violations. It really doesn't matter. We also assist our federal law enforcement partners in the apprehension of fugitive gang members. We'll get into that in a little bit here. So who we are a little bit more. We're comprised of a deputy from the Lyon County Sheriff's Office, in the room here, a deputy from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and the unit's overseen by a sergeant from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. We're also task force officers for the U.S. Marshals Service. So we work with our federal partners very closely. Including within our unit, we have members from the ATF. So as we'll talk about here in a little bit, quite a few of our cases will develop at a low local level and we'll end up getting federal prosecution on these individuals. So from 2009 until the end of this year, the unit's been partially funded through the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. Every year they've reduced the amount of funding to the point where this year the deputy for Lyon County received $21,000, same as the deputy for the Douglas County. Part of our responsibilities is investigation of gang crimes, intelligence gathering, suppressing the gang members and the gangs themselves, assisting outside agencies, and then gang diversion, working with community groups, the schools, juvenile probation officers, trying to stop juveniles from going down the path of gang membership. So part of that, what's important there is to understand what a gang is, because in Nevada, it is not illegal to be a gang member. Okay. So what a gang is any group of individuals that has a common name or identifying symbol. They have a particular conduct or status and customs upon themselves. And then part of their regular activity is going out and committing crimes that can be punished as a felony. Okay, so even though being a gang member is not a crime, it makes us have to work to say, okay, I know he's a gang member, his organization constantly or continuously commits felony crimes. We have to do the investigative back end to stop the felonies from being occurring within Lyon County and Douglas County. So part of the gangs that are the primary gangs that we investigate within our region, and all the pictures you see here are individuals from our communities, are what started out as the Southern California Hispanic street gangs of Sureños who pay allegiance to the Mexican Mafia. The Northern California Hispanic street gangs, Norteños, who pay allegiance to Nuestra Familia. White supremacist organizations, outlaw motorcycle groups. And lastly, what's been referred to as black street gangs. However, within our jurisdictions, we don't have a predominantly large metropolitan like African-American population. So we do see quite a few Caucasian and Hispanic members, parts of the historically black prison gangs. There's just a snapshot of just a few weapons and drugs that we've taken off the streets. We'll get into that a little bit more. So our total jurisdiction is about 2,710 square miles between the two counties. And according to the 2020 census, that brings us to about 108,000 residents that we travel between. So again, with that, you've got three individuals that kind of drive all over that area. So our response time can be a little bit delayed. The time it takes to investigate things can be a little drawn out because we're in, Topaz Ranch Estates and we're driving out to Fernley. It's going to take us a minute. So between the two counties, we have 23 documented gangs of 3 or more members. We have 126 gang members residing in the two communities, 15 gang associates, and a total of 264 gang files. In Lyon County alone, you have 15 gangs that consist of at least 3 members, 75 gang members, and 8 gang associates. And nearly 60% of our gang members reside in Lyon County. So from January till the end of the month, last month, in Lyon County, we've made 41 arrests, 38 traffic stops, 43 field interviews, which is going out and contacting these gang members and doing field interviews on them, and then 13 knock and talks going to their either typically we try and go to their residence, but it may end up being employment if they have employment. And then we've done 4 human trafficking investigations. One key thing that we found here is that 78% of our total arrests of gang members have been in Lyon County as well. Only 22% would be in Douglas County. So this was partly done by assisting the Lyon County Patrol Division 26 times, the Special Investigations Unit 35 times, being inside and working with the school resource officers 11 times, parole and probation at the state level 9 times, and then working with our U.S. Marshal Task Force 15 times, which consists of the DEA, ATF, and FBI, both 3 times there. And what makes part of that possible is, like we talked about, how the unit is comprised. Even though Lyon County has a deputy assigned to the unit, whenever we're working in Lyon County, you get myself, the deputy from Douglas County, and the deputy from Lyon. So we bring 3 with us anytime we go somewhere. And even if he's on sick leave or vacation, we still can and do come in to assist Lyon County. So in that time, we've seized more than at least 165.4 grams of methamphetamine, 29.21 grams of fentanyl, which is a very deadly drug. And then 6 illegal firearms taken off the street. So just a few kind of just snapshot significant cases without getting into too much of the weeds from this year. There was an Eastwood Toker gang member along with another gang member that entered a residence and Mound House, committed a felony domestic battery on an individual, 1st-degree robbery, stealing cell phones from her and her juvenile daughter, and then discharging firearms inside of that residence. They then went to Carson City and did a drive-by shooting in Carson. We did an investigation, Deputy Baugh, identified the individual, charged him with, I can't remember how many felonies, 13 different felonies, and we arrested the guy in Douglas County. That kind of shows how it kind of jumps across jurisdictional lines. There was unfortunately a human trafficking investigation that we had to do inside of the Dayton School District, where you had a group of juveniles inside of the Dayton School District that had conspired and put into effect to traffic another juvenile female into prostitution. Here recently, we had an outlaw Nazi skin, which is a white supremacist group that was based out of Henderson, Nevada, as a street gang.
has now grown through the prison population. A high-ranking member lives in Lyon County. He is also a high-ranking member of the Soldiers of Area and Culture, which is a Utah prison white supremacist gang that did a attempted murder by shooting of another white supremacist in Silver Springs. So again, we used our federal counterparts on this, and we effected a search warrant on his residence, arrested him, got the weapon that he was illegally possessing and illegally used. And the ATF is federally indicting him, so hopefully he'll get a little more prison time through the Fed system. And then Troy Driver is the suspect of the tragic loss of Naomi Irion. So our unit, working with the U.S. Marshals Service, what we did is we went through all of the Douglas County vehicles that matched the suspect. So we worked with the Lyon County Sheriff's Office to dwindle out the list of potential vehicles, narrowing it down to Troy Driver. Our unit then went into Reno and arrested that individual. But I didn't want to get too far into the weeds here. I just wanted to give you kind of a real brief overview of what it is that we do, again, to serve your communities. But I wanted to leave you with my contact information, and then Deputy Baugh is the Lyon County investigator for the gang unit. That picture there was a stop that we did last year on a white supremacist that was trafficking narcotics for a Norteño gang member that stemmed from Urington, Silver Springs, Burnley, and Reno. We got a little over 20 pounds of meth and 10,000 and 30 bills. Any questions for me while I'm here?
Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sergeant Williams, just want to thank you for the work you do and the risk you take every day of working to kind of control some shady individuals. That just by looking at that pile of drugs, I can only imagine that you're wearing your bulletproof vest when you're doing your job. So thank you for putting your life at risk and keeping our community safe.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Commissioner Henderson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add my thanks as well. You guys do a very important function to keep our community safe, and just that amount of fentanyl that you guys have, that stuff scares the daylights out of me because it doesn't take very much to kill you. So appreciate all you do and all the risks that you take.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gray.
Yeah, just, I passed along my thanks also, but just wondering, have you guys seen a rise? And the one that really scares me is the rainbow fentanyl. I mean, it's very attractive looking, especially to kids, and almost looks like candy. Are you guys seeing any of that? And
I believe the sheriff's going to talk about SIU quite a bit. They deal primarily in the narcotics, but we are seeing that to answer because narcotics and gangs go hand in hand.
oh yeah, that's
And so they'll do it as a trademark where they're branding their fentanyl, which is typically white, in a various significant single color or the combination of colors.
thank you guys again. That's yeah, these guys are scary, and I'll just leave it at that. If you can put them behind bars, that's okay, but I have other thoughts too.
Commissioner Hockaday, did you have anything?
No, we all know it's a tough job, and we're glad you're out there doing it every day. Because if you let down, we're in big trouble. So appreciate your gang unit out there taking care of the business.
Thanks, sir.
So I just want to comment, obviously I appreciate everything you do, echo what's been said. But I'm seeing this imbalance. So, most of them are in Lyon County. So can we shift some of them back to your county?
So our job is to keep them away from Douglas and Lyon and push them towards somewhere else.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, somewhere else is good too. I'm just like, you're going through the numbers and I'm like, yeah, it's not looking good for Lyon County. And I know our guys are tasked with enough in Lyon County being so spread out. I know you guys have a little bit of distance in Douglas County as well. But you are a little more consolidated than we are. So I just appreciate that we have agencies that work together. I remember a time when they didn't do that so much. And it's really good to see that all these agencies are coming together and trying to make our neighborhoods safer. So, thank you.
You're welcome, man. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna just throw a little bit more onto this real quick and then we'll sum up what direction we're going with this is. I think you guys probably have the SIU stats, like Sergeant Williams said. His team comes to Lyon County Works. They work very closely with our SIU team, which consists of 2 people, and our major crimes unit, which consists of 3 people. So if you do the numbers and stuff, we end up getting, what's that? 6, 8, 9 people out of this deal that we wouldn't have as a unit, and they work very closely together. So on all these major crimes in the only case, a lot of these big drug cases and stuff, all of these guys are working together to solve that. And I'm not going to go into the details specifically on our SIU group, but just a couple stats I'm going to give to you. In 2022, our SIU guys were assigned 20 or had 12 assigned felony investigations ranging from burglaries to armed robberies to child abuse and neglect. There were some felony fugitive arrests. So felony fugitive arrest is somebody else is a fugitive from justice from some other place. They had 3 of those. And if you guys want any more specifics about that, I think it's explained in the information that you got, and then it's available. Self-generated felony narcotics arrests, or SIU guys, those 2 guys, with the combination of these guys helped them out, had 12 cases that they investigated on that, and those were all major drug cases. This isn't you're arresting somebody with a joint in their car or a little bag of methamphetamine. These are significant cases that have made it, in my opinion, a huge impact on the street effect in Lyon County. I mean, one example is like Justin mentioned, the fentanyl that these guys have seized. 29 grams of fentanyl is enough to kill like 5,000 people. Taken in the wrong way. I mean, it's a pretty significant effect as far as overall. The other part of it, the other third piece of this whole, I call it my little triangle between these guys, SIU, and our major crimes unit. They have done a phenomenal job, and I'm just going to toss out some numbers on our major crimes guys, which consists of 3 detectives. They investigated 4 homicides, 41 juvenile sexual assaults, 16 lewdness of child cases, 9 physical child abuse cases, 9 child porn cases, 2 kidnappings, 11 suspicious deaths, 3 child deaths, 1 extortion, 1 prostitution, 6 armed robberies, 3 missing persons, and 33 miscellaneous crimes, and then 2 OIS investigations. Where this is important is I think we have developed as a sheriff's office and a working relationship with the U.S. Marshals, Douglas County, and other agencies in the system, something that's working. I mean, we're getting positive results on some major cases. And I think that's important. Where it becomes important is at some point in time after December, I, as a sheriff, is going to have to figure out how I'm going to augment my budget to support my involvement in the gang thing, because the grant's going away. So, and I don't have any intention of giving up on the operation of the unit. So whether I end up assigning somebody to work in that unit, or I come back to you guys and ask for $21,000 to keep that going, we'll have that discussion down the road. But I just wanted you guys to be aware of what's going on, where our money is being spent, and 78% of the activity of these guys is in Lyon County. So there's a significant involvement in Lyon County. So if you got any questions, I'd be glad to field them. If not,
Quick question. I know that the budget is the 21,000 now, but you said that was reduced. What was it originally?
Well, it was first founded.
So it's one of those that goes down 100%, 75, 50, 25. So we're about the 25 part, and into December goes out totally. So,
Gotcha.
and then that was Douglas County Sheriff Coverly was the one who did the grant initially, and they've been managing it for the last 4 years probably. And they're not going to renew the grant this next cycle. So that's what. So Sheriff Coverly has agreed to. He's got 2 people he's paying a sergeant and a deputy on this deal. So I figured we can contribute at least 1 and keep it going. So that's where we're going.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sheriff, just wondered, is there possibility of another grant out there that could be applied for?
There is, and without getting into too many specifics, a lot of these programs, you're better off if you can figure out the funding on your own.
I get that.
Because of the reporting requirements and stuff that are starting to come down the pipe. So these guys, they actually have a civilian person that manages the reporting side of it. And it gets very time consuming and I'm not saying that we can't look at it. But a lot of times it's better off to have 100% control of what you're doing. And that's the best option. If we can't figure that piece out, then obviously we got to go for grant.
And I certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions for? Great presentation. Love getting to know more knowledge about where our numbers are and what we are and aren't accomplishing in Lyon County. Okay, we're gonna go to 6C. Time certain at 10 a.m. for information only. Presentation by Fred Steinman from UNR Economic Development of the Lyon County Library System Needs and Assessment and Annual Update number 4 for the strategic plan for the Lyon County Library System.
For the record, Amy Geddes, Lyon County Libraries Director. Just wanted to take some time today and give you an update on what's going on with the libraries. Just to let you know that our 5 libraries serve about 18,000 people a month. That is about what, a third of the county every month. So we have some solid plans in place. We have been doing a needs assessment that we contracted with Fred to do. So he's going to give you an update on this today.
Thank you, Amy. For the record, Fred Steinman, Director, University Center for Economic Development at the University of Nevada, Reno. Chair, Commissioners, pleasure to be here today to give you a brief overview of the results of the 4th annual evaluation and update of the current 5-year strategic plan for the Lyon County Library System, as well as the results of a concurrent community needs assessment. As kind of an FYI in terms of background, the Lyon County Library Foundation actually contracted with us at the Center for Economic Development back in October of last year. The needs assessment is really divided into a couple individual component pieces, of which are all summarized in one of the 2 technical reports included in your agenda packet. The technical report labeled 2021-22-26 is the results of the needs assessment. And then the shorter technical report 2022-23-02 is the results of the 4th and final annual update of the existing strategic plan. The needs assessment in particular really focused on collecting and analyzing various socio-demographic, economic, and housing data pertinent to Lyon County and individual communities throughout the county, specifically those communities that the individual branches of the system serve. It also consisted of a comprehensive community needs assessment survey to really identify what the specific and changing needs of each individual community in the county are in terms of library programs, resources, and services. And then finally, about 100 hours of various community stakeholder meetings and interviews that I conducted throughout the county. Originally, we had hoped to finish up the community needs assessment by the spring of this year. Unfortunately, especially for the community meetings and stakeholder interviews, every time we tried to schedule them, we ran into another COVID spike, and that delayed our efforts, specifically meeting and holding open forums at all 4 of the senior centers throughout the county. But overall, generally, one of the major takeaways from the needs assessment is that the demand for library services across the county are growing significantly, but the types of different programs, resources, and services in each individual community is very different and unique based upon each community's unique socio-demographic profile. Very quickly go through just a little bit of the socio-demographic and economic and housing data in the technical reports. It's not news to anybody here. Lyon County is certainly a very fast-growing county in terms of growth in total population. Over the last couple of years, Lyon County, of course, has eclipsed Elko, Douglas, and Carson City as the 3rd largest county in the state. And even though the county as a whole continues to grow, that growth is uneven. Not every community within the county is exhibiting the same change in population. Certainly, and from the library standpoint, focusing on additional program resources and service development in the fastest growing parts of the county, the Highway 50 corridor in the northern part of the county is likely to be a priority moving forward, but certainly not wanting to sacrifice the programs and resources that the library provides at its other branches. Another, trend kind of county-wide is the continuing aging in terms of median age of the total population. Doesn't matter what public service you're providing as a public entity, different age groups demand different types of public services. As the population in Lyon County overall continues to age, the library system will likely continue to see an increase for those services that serve kind of the 55 and older population. That said, again, like population change, that's not even across the county. In communities like Fernley, we're actually seeing kind of an opposite trend with the population there actually getting younger, not older. So for the Fernley branch, they're probably going to focus more on young adults, teen, family with young children programs, resources, and services, while still trying to serve all age groups in that particular community. One area that libraries have really kind of evolved into in terms of their program resources and service delivery are programs and resources really designed to improve overall economic conditions in the communities that they serve. This just here shows the change in the estimated poverty rate for individual counties or communities throughout the county. Overall, poverty levels in Lyon County have declined, but again, it's not even community by community. So each individual library is going to have to really think about, what are the specific economic conditions in that community, and then again, develop the programs and the resources to address those needs. Over the course of the pandemic, of course, a lot of public agencies really depended upon providing and maintaining services through digital, online, and virtual means. This here shows the percentage of total households in the county with a computer. And while overall that number has increased over time, meaning that more households can actually access online, virtual, and digital resources, there's still a non-insignificant portion of the total population and by community that simply just doesn't have the technical capability, right, of not having a computer or other digital device in the household so that they can access those online resources. That condition is kind of magnified when we look at the percentage of total households in the county that don't have an internet and broadband subscription. So again, while there's been general improvement across the board in the last decade or so, there are still, again, that non-insignificant percentage of total population for the county and for individual communities that simply just cannot access online, virtual, and digital resources. And kind of when you add that to some of the economic conditions, as well as the median age analysis, there is a measurable percentage of the population that simply either doesn't have reliable personal transportation, or they have mobility challenges, so they can't physically make it to a branch library, but still depend upon those services. But again, relying solely on digital and virtual services, there is that percentage of population that doesn't have that capability within the household. And one of the real results, especially in the 4 town halls open meetings at the senior centers, there was a very clear and well-defined need for the library to find creative ways to bring services to where people are. In several unprompted sessions, individuals said, we'd love a bookmobile, similar to what Douglas County does. We'd like additional homebound services. We'd like additional drop-off and pickup points that are closer to where we live, as opposed to being reliant on virtual services or having to find a way to get to a physical branch library. Very quickly, just to kind of give you an idea of where the library is in terms of execution of its current 5-year strategic plan. Again, the library is entering its its 5th and final year of that planning horizon, just finishing off the 4th year of implementation. One area that remains critical to the library is increased and improved flexibility in the way in which the library provides services, as well as the types of programs and resources that each individual branch continues to develop and provide. For the final year of implementation of the current strategic plan, one of the priorities for the next year will really, again, continue to focus on increasing the overall number of full-time positions at each branch. The library has made significant progress over the last couple of years, moving towards that eventual goal of having a full-time library branch manager at each individual branch and additional full-time positions. Again, coming out of the needs assessment, individuals saying, you know, the hours that the library in my community is open is inconvenient. I work weird hours. I can't make it to the library when it's actually open. Additional full-time staff will allow each branch to expand and extend their hours of operation to serve a larger portion of the population that simply can't access resources. Also moving forward, in addition to that, the library, again, will continue to focus on outreach and engagement efforts, really focused again on either the full development of a bookmobile type service and potentially adding additional homebound or drop off and pickup locations throughout the county. And again, the priority level of this goal is really tied to the idea that there is that, again, non-insignificant percentage of the population throughout the county that don't have the means to make it to a branch library and don't have the means to access virtual and online resources. Kind of filling out the areas of priority, continued professional development and training for staff, continued development and implementation of various vocational training and job search and placement services. A lot of libraries throughout the state and really throughout the country are becoming hubs of community and economic development efforts. The Governor's Office of Economic Development, other state-oriented economic development groups would really like to work closer with various branch libraries like here in Lyon County to do this. And then finally, continue to identify and complete needed capital infrastructure projects. Noting that this priority has kind of fallen down the list over the years, primarily because the library has completed a number of significant capital improvement projects moving over the course of the last 4 years. Very last thing is just to touch upon the 6 primary findings from the needs assessment. I've already touched upon all of this to some degree. First and foremost, again, as the county's population continues to grow and as the population of individual communities continue to grow, the library system is going to see that increased demand. And in certain communities, specifically identified in Fernley, there aren't a lot of other services, public sector, private sector, or even nonprofit that provide services to families with young children, young adults, and teens. The library is really the one and only place to go for those types of programs and resources. And as more of that population moves into Fernley, the library is definitely going to see a marked increase in that demand. Already touched upon different population and patron groups needing different types of services. Another area that came out of the stakeholder meetings was really focusing on improving the overall sustainability of library resources, again, to match program with demand levels, identifying and continuing to identify areas where the library can improve its overall performance. But really noting that based upon the community survey results, near universal praise for what the library is already doing and its staff, with almost, again, the universal chant, we love what you're doing, do more of it, and then do more of all these other areas as well. And then finally, like any public sector organization, you can never do enough community outreach and engagement, more of that to come. And then again, as I've talked about, continuing to think creatively and develop new ways to increase overall accessibility of various library services, programs, and resources. It's a lot to get through in a short period of time. More than happy to take any or answer any questions that you may
So
have.
Fred, it's always great to see you. I'm having deja vu.
I think we did this like two days
Two-
ago or something.
2 days ago. Yeah.
I would like
to take a moment to publicly thank Commissioners Keller and Gray. They are a member of our foundation, the library foundation that we have. And they have been instrumental in raising funds for a bookmobile for our county. And I just want to say thank you for always being in my court. And I'll have you know that every commissioner has been to my fundraisers, and I thank them all for that support as well.
So this is where you put the plug in October 22nd, Masquerade Ball. It's our annual event that raises the most money to help with these situations. So
Did you happen to mention the Masquerade Ball on October 22nd at the Dayton
Exactly.
Valley Golf Course? Six. And
got
where,
your tickets.
and where can you get your tickets?
Okay, any questions, Commissioner Hockaday?
I just, when I looked at this, I said, this might be a sleeper, but you made it very relevant. I really enjoyed it, listening to all the assessments you've done. And it very, very important that we look at the libraries and keep everybody abreast of what they need. So I really appreciate this briefing. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jacobson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, just thank you, sir. That was very good. And Ms. Geddes, thank you for your time and energy you put into our system. That's awesome. And then just going to put a plug for some of our kids. Going after might be the Nevada Promise Scholarship. They need 8 hours of volunteer service. I was see, look at her shake her head. So I bet you've got some volunteers working with you as we go through that to get these kids in school. So that's awesome. And I just wanted to touch on, I know that you have a lot of volunteers helping out, and there's a great opportunity for our youth to get some of those volunteer hours. So thank you.
Commissioner Henderson and Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just ditto. Thank you for what you do. I know, personally, I have done things and been places through books that I would never be able to do it in life. So I certainly appreciate libraries. So thank you.
I gotta say, before coming onto this board, there were problems with the library system. I think you were around. It's amazing how under the stewardship and leadership of Ms. Geddes, this has just absolutely turned around and become something. Because I'll tell you, I was not a library fan in the beginning. Showing up, couldn't get in. You walk in there, kids screaming and yelling, at the Dayton branch. And if you heard the F-bomb once, you heard it 15 times. And it was a drop and go place more than anything. But now it's being used for what it's intended to be used for. There's adult supervision, for lack of better words. There's the system has grown and expanded, provided more resources, and just want to thank Amy personally for that. She has done a fantastic job. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't echo that enough. Amy, the job that you've done since you came on to the library is amazing. And what a turnaround. Because I was here when the old board disbanded and we got a new board and you got hired on, and boy, you took on a task and you made it your own. And it's great, everything that you've done. I can't say enough either. So, and being, the foundation, I know I got roped into that. I said I would do 1 year. I've been there how long now as president? Yeah, anyways, but I enjoy it. And the best part of it is being able to help with these assessments or any other thing that the library needs, without having to look to that county budget to get the money. And it's actually been an honor to serve you by being on the board. So, and Fred, I can't say enough for everything that you've helped us with the Library Foundation and the library board. Like I said, deja vu, but hey, it sunk in better the second time around, right?
Did you notice how he made it still interesting the second time around?
Right. Yeah. Good job.
Well, I had practice. We were presenting this to the Fernley City Council last night, so it's like 12
So you've had
hours.
lots of practice. So thank you. Okay, moving on. So let me see. 7A for presentation only. Recognize the community service given by Scott Keller and David Ray of the Citizens Advisory Boards. Mr. Haskin.
Andrew Haskin, Lyon County interim county manager. Yeah, so we have a couple of awards to give out today, certificates of appreciation, one to Scott Keller and one to Mr. Dave Ray for their service on the Citizens Advisory Boards. I don't see Mr. Ray here, but I know Scott's here, so we'll have him come up, but I'll just read this certificate. It says Certificate of Appreciation awarded to Scott Keller for recognition of leadership within your community as a Citizen Advisory Board Chairman as you move on to a new chapter for Lyon County. Awarded this day, this 6th day of October 2022.
Thank you. I appreciated doing it and time to move on.
I just want to give a little bit of backstory on this because I realized the wording on that when you read it as chairman. When Scott first got elected to the Silver Springs Advisory Board, it wasn't by appointment up here. It was an actual election back in those days. And in his very first meeting, they elected him the chairman and handed him the gavel. And if you could have seen the look, you know, the deer in the headlights. Yeah. But he's been doing that, what, 15 years now. So anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. When they say as chairman, it's literally been since his first meeting. So. Oh, yeah, got to get a picture.
Yeah.
I guess you've been around long enough to deserve one. Been around a day or two.
Boy.
Well, Andrew's tall enough. They gonna widen us all just right. We got short ones, long ones.
Big ones, little ones.
Right.
That one's kids who climb on rocks.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to thank Mr. Keller and Mr. David Ray for their service. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, and please extend to Mr. Ray. I know he's not here. You know, that we still appreciate the service that he gave Lyon County and his community.
Absolutely, will do.
Anybody else? We're good.
Yeah, just now say thanks to Scott and Dave. They both have been around for a very long time and been powerhouses in their way in their communities. So thank you guys.
Just gonna say, you know, been around Scott and Dave, I think Dave Ray for 6 to 8 years. Scott's been longer than that. I've always appreciated them jumping in and doing the job. So thank you much.
We all good?
I'm good.
Commissioners, boy, we're just now getting to Commissioner County Manager reports. Wow. Okay, I'm going to start on my left. Commissioner Jacobson,
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Hockaday.
Yeah, I've got a few things. I'll go fast. I wanted to thank the Smith Valley Ambulance Service for picking me up on the 23rd of September when we called them for a little COVID attendance at taking me to the hospital. Also last night at the Smith Valley Advisory Board meeting, it was pretty interesting. After the meeting, we were standing out and Deputy Ted Zingfuse, he and I were talking and all of a sudden he took a sprint to his car and jumped in. And I guess he saw somebody there at the Smith corner, kind of a three-way flip-flop corner there, either run a stop sign or not yield to somebody coming around the turn. There were two trucks that almost crashed into each other. And I mean, for someone that wasn't on duty, that showed up at the advisory board meeting just to answer questions, he really got in that car and took off. And I don't know, I'm sure the guy got a ticket for whoever did something wrong, but talk about somebody who is on the ball. Also fun days last Saturday and Sunday. Turned out fantastic, probably the biggest crowd I've ever seen. Fantastic group of cars. And Saturday, the tractor pull, the arena was full, the cars were packed in there. It was just a great time, super weather. Really appreciate everybody getting out and participating in that. A lot of booths and a lot of fun. And then the other thing that I wanted to make a comment about was the 8th of October at 6 p.m. Yerington's at the Senior Center in Yerington is going to have a haunted dinner party, and they're going to show the Psycho movie, and they'd like you to purchase tickets in advance. I do have their flyer. Try to make that activity here in Yerington a good one and make some more money for the seniors. So that's about all I have.
Commissioner Gray,
And nothing this time.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few things. I will be as brief as possible. Want to congratulate the Dayton Chamber of Commerce. Dayton Valley Days was a huge success this year. Very well attended. I mean, busier I think I've ever seen it. It was just a throng of people. I also attended the Silver Springs Airport Days last Saturday and was happy to see their turnout, and the Fire Protection District was out there as well. Speaking of the Silver Springs Airport, there will be a celebration of life ceremony for Kay Bennett this Saturday out there. As you know, she ran the airport for many, many years with her husband. Attended the Mountain House Advisory Board the other night. They are warming to the idea of converting the fire station for your community center. They're more welcoming to that. They are planning some type of Christmas event out there. So we're bringing more information back to that. And then also attended the NACO conference up in Story County. I thought it was a good conference. I thought the agenda was a little bit light, but maybe that's just based on my past experiences. But also got me thinking, if Story County can host a NACO event, there's no reason why Lyon County can't. So, and that's it.
Okay. You didn't speak. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Anyways. I just want to say, yeah, I was also at the NACO conference. I agree. The agenda was a little light, but that kind of came about after COVID, and that changed a lot of things when we had a couple of conferences that were on Zoom, and conferences on Zoom are just not the same. But as far as the event itself, thank you to Story County for hosting. We had a good time, and it was always good to meet up with our counterparts from our other counties and, have a little discussion, find out what's happening in other parts of the state. So, and real quickly, while I've got the floor, October 15th is our Founders Day in Silver Springs. Hope everybody can show up. I know the sheriff's going to be there. We've got Sam Brown coming out. We got the Nevada Veterans Coalition. We got a DeLorean. We're doing the Back to the Future theme. So, between the sheriff's department, fire department, everybody, I think we're going to have a great day. So please come and join us on the 15th. So now I'm going to turn it over to our brand new interim county manager for his very first report. No pressure.
Well, yeah, that's quite the setup. Andrew Haskin, interim county manager. I will keep it brief today, but I do have a few things that I wanted to touch base on. The COVID booster shots will be available on October 12th for those that want them at the fairgrounds. So I wanted to make everybody aware of that. Currently, we are accepting applications for the planning commission. If the current commissioners wish to stay on the commission, they still need to apply. And if there are others in the community that are interested, we are accepting applications. So please make sure to get those applications over to either myself or Aaron, so that we can get those processed before the board. I also wanted to let you know that we are currently accepting applications for our senior planner position. We hope to begin to schedule interviews starting at the end of next week. We've received a few applications already, so we'll see how that goes. But if anybody knows of any other planners out there that are looking for a job, then please have them apply. At the next meeting, I will be bringing an agenda item to the board to prioritize projects. I know that the board had a number of projects that Jeff was working on, or myself in the community development department that we were working on for the board that were brought up as agenda items in the past. So I will be bringing a list of those that I'm aware of, and we'll be taking a look at those and reprioritizing them so that I can keep the ball moving on those projects. I will also be bringing the solid waste franchise RFP back to the board next meeting. We completed the draft of it. I know it's in legal review right now, so stay tuned for that. The plan is to bring it forward at the next meeting. So that, unless something changes on the legal review side, that'll be what we do. And then finally, when we pass the ordinance to allow the community development director to sign off on final subdivision maps, there was a section in there that said that I had to bring back a report on maps that I had signed. So I did sign a final map for Traditions Village 1 Phase 5 on September 23rd, and that is for 58 lots as part of that subdivision. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Andrew? Oh, you got off easy.
Well, this is called a honeymoon.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the elected official reports. Please note in your packets that you have reports from the Canal Township Justice Court and Dayton Justice Court. So elected official reports. Sheriff Honeywell.
Sheriff Frank Canal, for the record, just a couple things. I'm going to expand Commissioner Henderson on your grant question from earlier. A lot of those grants are what they call startup grants to get a program up and going. Once you get past the startup phase, then you kind of apply for different grant funding, and those are very competitive. So not saying we wouldn't do that, but I want to try to make sure we line up a possibility of keeping it going if that doesn't happen. So the black truck, I'm just going to expand on that a little bit. Thank you guys for working with the city of Fernley for us to acquire that piece of equipment. And it's a lot more user friendly for what we have in Lyon County for a lot of different reasons. I mean, we've survived over the last number of years. Probably, well, since I was on the SWAT team way back when, with military surplus vehicle or something else that we acquired. The advantage that this particular rig brings to us is our entire team can fit in this one. So 12 guys can fit in there. It moves a lot faster up and down the highway. And since we got a lot of distance to cover and stuff, it's more practical for that. The other piece of it is it brings a lot of technology to the table that we don't have, and I didn't get a chance to explain it earlier, but it's got infrared cameras and heat seeking camera and a bunch of other stuff on it. So we can use all that stuff. We have the capability of tying our drone video into the monitor inside the truck. So you can put a drone up, fly over residence and feed it into the truck so the guys see what's going on before they even get there. And the other part is the weight. It's just under 17,000 pounds. The current MRAP that we have right now is pushing close to 25,000 pounds. Actually, it's more than that, it's like 30,000 pounds. So it doesn't take a special driver's license to drive it. So those are all huge benefits. And mechanical wise, our guys at the county yard can actually work on this one. They couldn't work on the other one. So there's a lot of things that's going to pay off in the long run as far as having this particular vehicle. We've reached out an agreement with Central Line Fire, so Chief Harvey and I have agreed to allow it to live at Station 32 in Silver Springs, even if they end up staffing that station. Is going to make sure we have a spot for it there. So it's centrally located, kept inside, and secured. So looking forward to it. We hope to have it online by the first part of next week. We're trying to get a few little things worked out as far as equipment wise goes, and then should replace the other one. The other MRAP that we got through the 1033 program is gonna go to Elko County. Elko County Sheriff's Office is gonna take that because they don't have one and they need one as bad as we do. So that's where that one's gonna go. A couple other announcements. We got another new hire starting on Monday. We got 6 more people in background, so I'm optimistic that we're gonna continue to move forward with that. We've also pulled one person, and shortly we're gonna pull another person out of the jail to go to patrol. So we got 2 more that are graduating the academy in November. So we're gonna start seeing some more people on the streets in Lyon County fairly soon. Outside of that, I don't think I have anything else to add, unless you got a question specifically for me.
Any questions? No. Not seeing any.
Thank you.
You got off easy too. And your honeymoon's over. Any other elected officials? Nothing, Steve? You're gonna be quiet today? Okay.
We get
Uh,
off easy.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to appointed official reports, and I saw Josh walk into the room. So that's usually a good sign that he wants to say something. Yeah. Mr. Foley.
Josh Fuller, Lyon County Comptroller for the record. Just wanted to update the board on conversations with the district court and the remodel of the district court space. After having discussions with the district court judges, they feel like it would be more prudent for them to move all of their operations out of the space that's up there currently during the construction cycle. What that would do is that would alleviate any issues with noise during their operations. It would also decrease the cost and time of construction for that because they wouldn't have to do phasing on the construction. And so in an effort to save the county financial dollars and to make their court work better, they are planning on relocating out of the second floor up there. They would like to use the commissioner chambers for court at different times. And so they're going to work around the calendar that is put together for the commissioners. So we're trying to make sure that everything is on the calendar so that they don't schedule court on those days. So just wanted to let you know that, which will entail an additional cost for the architect to change the drawings that we're going out to bid on, because we're not phasing them and we have to reflect that in the drawings and that, but it'll end up in cost savings overall. The second one is a little interesting for me. We ended up with the American Rescue Plan Act. We went through all of that discussion ad nauseum over the past couple of years. There was another provision, the American Rescue Plan Act, that's called the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund. And that particular fund is, they weren't sure how it was going to work. They were doing a lot of negotiations, they being NACO, with the Treasury Department on trying to get it sent out. And basically it's additional funding under the Rescue Plan Act with different strings attached than the original one. A little more narrow, a lot more narrow in focus. And it's for counties that have public lands within HILT counties. And so Lyon County, I went on and filled out the application that we need to do. We should be receiving funding this week in the amount of, someone here, I have it, $2,060,274.37. Comes in 2 payments. That's the first payment. The second payment is the exact identical amount that will happen sometime within the next year to 2 years. Restricted to governmental purposes, has to be used for governmental purposes. I know there's been a lot of discussion from the board on, let's look at some infrastructure costs. Let's get engineering done, like on Ramsey Weeks, Miller Ayazi. So when federal money becomes available, we can use those funds. These funds that would fit for those purposes. If we spend the money within a certain time frame, we don't have to follow the Buy American Act provisions, which is good and bad, right? We all want to buy American. The problem is when you get into a project like we're experiencing the utilities, and it takes you 6 to 8 months to get the product. it causes significant challenges for us. So it is exempt for the first 6 months of funding. After that, we would have to do Buy American, but roads are a very easy way not to have to worry about complying. And just so you know, we have underfunded our roads by tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars over the past since I've been here and before, because we don't have the funding to do it. We haven't reconstructed a road since Dustin's been here, I don't believe. We haven't, as far as the road director, we just basically go out and chip seal every year and hope that those roads are gonna last, and when they don't, we're like, I wish we had more funding. You actually have the opportunity with some more funding at this point, that is restricted for a purpose such as that. And so, just so the board is aware, I've in discussions with the county manager, there are some things where we have some dire needs as a county that we feel like we should bring that back to the board and have them consider those and say, here are some things, some projects that are really, we should have done 20 or 30 years ago potentially, and need to be done sooner rather than later, if they were coming.
How soon do you plan to have an agenda item for us to discuss that?
So we're thinking probably a second meeting in November, potentially, maybe a little bit longer than that. The good news on this is unlike the ARPA funds, even though this is under the same act, it's a whole different section. There is no time frame that the board has to spend them on. Have to do an annual report on what we actually spent them on when each year comes up. But you could save up that $4 million and use it on a project in 2 years once all the planets align, and do one big project. As an example, Ramsey Weeks, you could do the whole project with that funding. Just using that as an example, I'm not saying that is by any means the only issue that we have there. It would be nice to get that off of our inventory onto the state's inventory as an arterial road instead of ours. That would be one way to do that. Again, I could bring the road director in and he could take you on a tour of the county on all of the roads that need redone. If we're just looking at roads, and roads aren't the only needs. Commissioner Hockaday and I had some discussion last week, I think, on some other needs that potentially need to be taken care of that we're looking at. And so we'll be bringing back some information to the board in the future time. But just FYI.
Yeah,
Commissioner Gray.
I'm just gonna throw I'd say 2 cents, but inflation's gonna drive it to 6 cents. And Mount House, I mean, I whatever we do to get that fire station remodeled, they've warmed greatly to the idea. They're already planning events there. Again, we're gonna have a Christmas shindig there, I think on December 16th. But we need to get that. I mean, we could do that fairly inexpensively on the grand scheme of things and actually check a box off the list.
And
So
to address that, I believe we have 300,000 in ARPA funds allocated, and we're trying to get approval for $200,000 in CDBG, which I believe would accomplish that very goal with those funding sources.
thank you.
Question, Commissioner Jacobson.
So it's 4 million, not 2 million. It was 1 million. It's two $2 million chunks. Good job, Mr. Foley. Nice.
Okay, I guess that's it. Yeah, I guess we'll just wait for you to bring it back to us and
Sounds good.
things that like that, the sooner we can get them on an agenda, the better, because we don't know what our board's gonna look like after November.
It's true, or even into November.
Right. So
Potentially.
just saying.
Okay.
Even by the second meeting in November.
Well, that's what I said. We don't know. So if we can get sooner rather than later might be better.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Thank you for the report. Thanks for finding money.
I just want it on the record so everyone understands I came with 0 bad news today. 0.
That is rather
You
a
know-
first.
Right. We need to mark that.
It's a sentinel event.
Mr. Homestead, just the person I want to talk to. Come on up.
Doug Homestead, Facility Director for the record. What did you want to talk to me about?
Well, I think you had a report first.
I just wanted to give a public thank you. We got the tennis courts at Dressler Park tore out and the pavement in yesterday. My crew and with the thanks of Dustin Holman and his crew dismantled the place in a couple days and got everything hauled away, and we couldn't have done it without Dustin's crew. And we didn't have the money to pay the contractor to do it, so two departments went together and got it handled. He needed an office built for a new supervisor he has in Dayton, so my guys went up and built an office, and I said, hey, I need your help here, and he jumped right in and helped me.
Fantastic.
I want to thank him. And what did you want from me?
First of all, so how soon are we scheduling in the unveiling, or is it even put in the ground yet? The dedication for former Commissioner Ken Harvey for the canal.
That was assigned to Dustin.
Oh, pass the buck.
It wasn't involved in that.
Good bob and weave.
Wow. Okay. Could you look into it?
I
please?
will, I'll check with him.
And because I was told you were working on it. So, yeah, so if you could please look into that, because
sure.
I thought we were going to do that
Yeah.
this month and I haven't heard anything.
Okay, I'll find out for you.
And the second one, what'd you find out on my Christmas tree?
We're working on trying to find a tree. If you went by there lately, you notice a big difference over there at the senior center. We cleared out a lot of the junk that was in there. And we might have to, for this year, use the tree that's close to the street.
I kind of figured.
But I'd like to eventually, maybe on the end, as you come in the parking lot and turn towards the senior center, right down there, there's a tree that we would like to get rid of. And I was thinking about getting a fir tree for down there that's made better for our climate here. And it looks more like a Christmas tree. But we'd like to get a substantial size one, and right now there's like a 12-footer and that's not big enough, so. So we're working on it.
Okay.
And I was gonna get with you.
So I'll be able to use the front tree
Yeah.
with all the cleanup and
Yeah.
everything. I
We
kind of thought
fertilized
that
all
too
of
when I
those and
saw
got-
it.
We fertilized all those and got the water going again to them. What happened when you put that slab in? They disconnected the line, so it wasn't getting water.
I was wondering if there was a problem
Yeah,
with the water.
and so we got the water going again, and hopefully we want to, instead of just tearing it out this year, we'd like to see if it might come back. But I don't know if the one will or not, but we'll see.
Yeah, I was a little sad when,
Yeah, I was too. when I moved them, so
yeah,
it's
unfortunately, pine trees die before they know it. So
Yeah.
by the time we see it, it's too late.
too late, yeah.
Okay, that was my
Okay.
2 questions. So yeah, if you could please follow up on
I will.
the Harvey Canal, that would be, because we approved that well over a year ago.
Mhm.
And so the family kind of thought we were gonna have that dedication this month. And I hadn't heard anything, so if you could please follow up on that.
All right. Any other questions? Nope.
Thank you. Any other appointed officials? Chicken. Okay, we don't have anybody online, do we, Andrew, that I've missed? As far as appointed officials or anybody?
I don't see
Okay, I'm
any.
not seeing any.
Madam Chair?
Oh, somebody spoke up.
Yeah, is this for the advisory boards?
I will be in just a second, so if you
Okay,
can
thank
bear
you.
with me.
You got it.
Okay, appointed officials. Did you have something, Aaron? Oh, you're gonna do something for advisory boards? Okay. So, okay, moving on to advisory boards. Mr. Shirley, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you all for your support, and I have a question for you guys. Something that I've been kind of struggling with. The NRS in our manual says nothing about the process for community members to request items to go on the agenda. I had a lengthy discussion with the AG's office, and I sent Mr. Gray a copy of the response that I had gotten back. And their suggestion was, I don't know if you can share that, to put a footnote on the bottoms of our agenda, so we would all be standardized, and it would have a way for us to track the historical value or the process of our meetings, to have that submitted in writing, those requests.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, it was simply said, the AG's office just said, I mean, he wanted a process by which people from the public could request agenda items. And they could just submit it in writing, per the instructions on the notes on the, the previous month's agenda. And they could get it on future agendas.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, Mr. Shirley, I'm sure, we can get with Aaron and we can make that, incorporate that in. It doesn't sound like a hard thing to do, so.
Okay, well, I appreciate it.
All right.
And thank you all for all your support. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Ms. Lopez.
Erin Lopez, for the record. I just wanted to give you guys an update on applications are due. We certainly want our existing members whose terms are expiring to reapply, but it's also open to all citizens. So if you are interested in applying for the Citizen Advisory Board or Planning Commission, to please get me your applications before November 19th to make it to the December agenda. That doesn't mean that we won't accept them, but we would like them to all be included in one packet. One other thing that we did our first monthly training with the advisory boards. We had minimal participation. I believe we had at least three different advisory boards representation there. And I wanted to thank Dave Hockaday for attending. My concern is that if we don't get enough participation, we can't keep the program going. We would like to see it going. So I just urge the advisory board members to at least ask one of your members to participate. So if there's any other cares or concerns, if there's a better date or time, please let me know. I kind of went off of feedback that I got, but we're certainly open to making any adjustments to get more. And the main highlight from that meeting that the advisory boards were concerned about, that they reported, that I wanted to give you the information on, was that the chair is actually acting as secretary and doing the secretary duties because the volunteers on the board aren't wanting to take up that position. So they're having a hard time filling that. I personally can't tell them what to do or give them direction, or can't enforce that. So that is up to you as a board members to figure out if there's another way that we can walk around that and help them with that situation. One of the things that I talked about with them is possibly coming up with a routine that we alternate the secretary duty year by year, alternating it with the vice chair between meetings. So that's not too cumbersome, because I do understand that with the secretary duties, you do pick up quite a bit of the work that comes with the volunteering. So if you have if you want to make in a future agenda item, you can let me know so we can discuss it further. But I just wanted to give you, that was the main thing that was reported to me that was of their concern. Any questions for me?
Any questions for Aaron?
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any other advisory board reports? Anybody on that second page, Andrew? Not seeing any.
I don't see
Okay.
any.
We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda action will be taken on all items. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and may be acted upon by the Board of County Commissioners with one action and without an extensive hearing. Any member of the board or any citizen may request that an item be taken from the consent agenda, discussed and acted upon separately during this meeting. Excuse me. And our consent agenda is items 12A
16D.
to 16D.
Madam Chair, I'd like to have item 14A heard separately.
14A, okay. Any other request?
Not really a request to remove anything, but I need to get, there's some misspellings on 16A that I had marked and I didn't get it done before the meeting today, but there's a couple of misspellings there that we need to correct, and that's about it. Otherwise, it's good with me.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda 12A through 16D with the exception of pulling 14A.
Second.
Okay, and we're polling it for further discussion, not just polling it.
Further discussion, correct, ma'am?
Thank you. Any further discussion, public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 14A, for possible action, approve correctional healthcare services agreement addendum with Recon. Is that how they pronounce that?
Recon.
Recon, okay, Technologies, Inc. to provide contract phlebotomists to conduct legal blood draw services for the Lyon County Sheriff's Office. Fee schedule is in the packet. Cost would be $125 for a single draw and $325 for a series draw. Cost would be billed per incident. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a statement I need to make. NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose a conflict of interest. Item 14A involves approval of the Correctional Healthcare Services Agreement Addendum with Recon Technologies Incorporated to provide contract phlebotomists to conduct legal blood draw services for the Lyon County Sheriff's Office. My wife is employed by Recon Technologies Incorporated and is assigned to the Lyon County Jail, and therefore this contract addendum may affect my commitment in a private capacity to the interest of my wife, Kathy. However, her job is not dependent on approval of this addendum, and neither her employment nor her compensation is changed by the approval of the addendum. Therefore, I conclude that the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would not be materially affected by this relationship. And because this is not a clear case of a disqualifying conflict of interest, I am going to participate on this item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, can we get a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 14A as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, at this moment in time, I'm going to ask for just a 5-minute break so I can run down the hall. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, so we are now to planning items 17A. Oh, and call this meeting back to order. Sorry about that. For possible action to approve the request for a conditional use permit. Request by Silver Springs Stagecoach Hospital District for an expansion, installation of commercial coaches for office space of a non-conforming use hospital in the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District located at 3595 West Highway 50, Silver Springs, Nevada, APN 018-354-08 PLZ 2022-138.
Thank you for the introduction. Louis Carriola, Senior Planner, presenting on behalf of Community Development. So the subject site in Silver Springs is located south of Highway 50, just east of the Ramsey Weeks cutoff. The image on the left shows a vicinity map, and on the right, the development on site as well as the parcel configuration. The actual parcel is approximately 6.5 acres. But on the right here in this slide, I highlighted the actual development, the developed area on the property, which is less than 3 acres, just about 2.8 acres. This image should immediately tell everyone what we're looking at, the Lyon Medical Complex, which consists of 2 buildings, 7,000 plus square foot medical building and an office clinic that is just under 2,000 square feet. Now, per our development code, the use of a hospital is not permitted in a neighborhood commercial zoning district. As you hear every time when we discuss zoning, the consistency matrix converts the land use standards for C1 zone properties
to neighborhood commercial. The existence of that hospital predates our development code, which is why we have essentially a legally existing non-conforming use. In those cases, any expansion of a legally existing non-conforming use requires a conditional use permit. So that's what we have here, a request for a CUP to add a commercial coach for additional office space to support the functioning hospital. The area is 1,440 square feet. The dimensions of the coach are 60 feet by 24 feet. And I colored an image here for ease of understanding of the site plan. The gray and green box would be the location, again, within that development footprint that exists. So it's just on the periphery of the parking lot. So there'd be no further grading or anything significant in that manner. The findings for a conditional use permit are found in chapter 230.06 of Title 15. I just summarized them because I don't think this is all that contentious a project. But the expansion of the hospital use would be consistent with our master plan designation of employment for the site. There'll be no notable increase to traffic that would in any way compromise the brand new section of Highway 50. And we received no concerns from reviewing agencies or entities. There was one mistake in the staff report that noted that the site was not connected to Silver Springs Mutual Water Company. It is in fact connected. So when the building permit comes in, a fixture unit count would be used to assess the connection fee. The recommended conditions are fairly boilerplate. And on September 13, 2022, the Planning Commission heard this item and recommended approval to this body 7-0. With that, I'm available for any questions.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Madam Chair, I'm ready to make a motion if we're ready.
Commissioner Henderson, did you have a question or can we make the motion first?
Either way, I do have a question though.
Okay, go ahead and make your motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve conditional use permit for an expansion, installation of commercial coaches for office space of non-conforming use hospital in the C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district located at 3595 West Highway 50, Silver Springs, Nevada, APN 018-354-08 PLZ 202-138.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it says commercial coach, but it's really basically a metal building, right?
No.
Well, yeah, what exactly is it then?
Director Haskins, teams, or county manager Haskins, my mistake.
Andrew Haskin. I don't believe it is a metal building. I think it is a commercial coach, which is like a modular.
Can I just answer the question?
Sure.
It is a same as a manufactured home modular building, but it's built to commercial standards.
Okay.
So it's a commercial coach.
Okay, my concern was with the exterior of it, but if it's not going to be a converted basically mill van, then I'm good. So thank you.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Okay, I'm gonna go to public comment. Andrew, you're gonna have to help me out on Zoom because I can't see.
I don't see any on Zoom.
No hands. Okay, so all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, I'm gonna get us through 17B and then we'll break for lunch. For possible action to approve the request for a conditional use permit CUP requested by Linico to construct a battery recycling waste and salvage facility in Mound House at the current end of Industrial Parkway, APN 016-111-06 and 016-111-07. The site will provide for temporary storage of batteries on palletized bundles prior to shipping to a recycling facility, PLZ 2022-166. And before we move forward, Pass one of these down. One all the way to the very far end. You can reach around the corner there. And I have additional copies, Andrew, if anybody wants one. So this being October 6, 2022, Board of County Commissioners meeting. Vida Keller, Lyon County Commissioner, full disclosure agenda item, public hearing on planning items, 17B, conditional use permit requested by Linico, located in Mound House, APNs again, 016-111-06 and 016-111-07. I, Vida D. Keller, do hereby disclose my current position in working with Corrado DeGasperi. I have been the broker of record of other companies that Mr. DeGasperi is affiliated with. However, I am not involved with this applicant known as Linico or their request for a CUP. There is no direct or implied benefit to me or to any family member. In preparing this disclosure today, I have personally sought out the advice of legal counsel from Lyon County District Attorney Stephen Rye. I also refer to NRS 281A.420 requirements regarding disclosure and conflicts of interest and abstention from voting because of certain types of conflicts, effects of its abstention, I can't talk today, on quorum and voting requirements. My decision today will be not to abstain on the matter before us due to no pecuniary interest in the project. So please put it on the record that I, Vida D. Keller, will not be abstaining from this planning item and will carry out my responsibility as defined in NRS 281A.420. Now you can proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Louis Garriola, Senior Planner, presenting. Subject parcel is located in Mound House. This image is in the staff report and taken from the applicant's middle materials. You'll see Highway 50 there to the south, approximately 2 miles south. The two parcels have addresses along Industrial Parkway, located at the terminus of Industrial Parkway at 200 and 350 Industrial Parkway. These images are from the county's GIS system. On the left, we see the parcel boundaries, and on the right, we can see that the site is already disturbed, having been used in the past for mining, as the Hayward Quarry, as a dump site for Lyon County. The parcel areas are about 241 acres, but as seen in the staff report and the applicant's materials, the actual area proposed for disturbance via this project is on the order of only about 15 acres at this point. I think that's an important distinction. There is no special flood hazard area noted on the FEMA flood insurance rate maps. So development on the site in the future would not require a floodplain development permit. Access, as previously mentioned, is along Industrial Parkway. Industrial Parkway does have connection to Highway 50 by connection to Highway 341. Notably, while Industrial Parkway is paved, the last mile, about a mile, maybe a little short of that, to the site is a gravel road. There are not residential properties or anything along that stretch, but that final stretch is not paved with asphalt. Vehicular access does include a gate, which we see here, approximately a mile north of the existing end of pavement, so near the entrance to the site. And prior to that gate, we can see in this picture, also provided by the applicant, crossing of the B&T Railway tourist train. No disturbance to the function of the B&T tourist train is proposed by this project. Existing development on the property, in addition to the disturbance from previous uses, includes a maintenance storage building, kind of box there in orange, and an old water tank with the blue circle. The bottom of this image shows the location of that gate we saw in the photo earlier. Existing development and uses. So while the mining uses have been decommissioned, the property owners have been actively working to, I suppose, run off and remove what the staff report in this image call unauthorized camping. I think we all know what that really is. If these people are trespassing and probably not up to the types of activities we would want to see in town, but they shouldn't be there. As previously mentioned, some of the previous uses included an asphalt hot plant, crushing and processing, aggregate extraction, again known as the Hayward property. Was mined. It's been intermittently mined since the 1900s, and the county has used it in the past for a landfill and dump site. The master plan designation is resource for our 2020 master plan. The zoning is RR5, the expired district from Title 10, which is subject to rural residential 20-acre minimum. For the consistency matrix, you'll see the surrounding parcels share similar zoning, despite the fact that, of course, this is not a residential development area. Our development code requires industrial uses that are similar to waste and salvage operations, which are defined in our code and most similarly describe the proposed use. Those uses are required to attain a conditional use permit, and as such, the applicant submitted for one. The specific language, again, is waste and salvage facility for the temporary storage of batteries on palletized bundles prior to shipping to a recycling facility. At this point, I will turn the presentation over to the applicant's representative to describe the project.
Thank you.
Crowder Gasparis, Gold Hill, Nevada. Executive Chairman of Linicos. I lost my voice this morning. I think I'll be okay. But you know, we'll see.
Well, you got Zach there to back you up.
Yeah. I think it'll be okay. And this presentation, oh, Lewis, can you bring? Sure. Also, Chris Peterson is our senior project manager is on the Zoom, and Ken Dorr, who's our engineer, is also on the Zoom and may refer back to them for some questions. I'll try to be brief to preserve my voice as well. So there's an extraordinary thing happening with these metals. Demand is exploding. It's really tied to electric vehicles. I guess I want to go on record. Our company is recycling these battery metals for full reuse into battery grade metals. We're not in any way, shape, or form making batteries or otherwise in the EV industry, but the EV industry is clearly exploding, and it's exploding to the tune of needing 60% more nickel or 200% more cobalt and almost 500% more lithium just in the next 6 or 7 years. Most studies show that all the lithium mineral resources that have been defined in the world, including in Nevada, are not sufficient, to meet these demands. And this chart speaks to if just some of these projections come true, and not even the most aggressive ones, we would need 50 years of nickel mining and over 500 years of lithium mining at the current rates to meet it. Now, obviously, rates are increasing and people are struggling to meet those demands. But the bottom line is recycling is really critical to meet this demand. And these minerals, they're elements, right? And the elements never deteriorate or get lost. But what they need to do is be recycled and repurposed so that the purity is sufficient for battery grade. And amazingly, Northern Nevada has established itself as a leader in these critical metals, not just from a mining perspective, but from the recycling perspective. And I guess we could attribute some of that to Tesla, since Redwood Industries was a quasi spin out. When J.B. Straubel left Tesla, he started Redwood Industries. He's building a cathode facility about 10 minutes from Silver Springs. And American Battery Technologies CEO is Ryan Meltzer, who worked for J.B. Straubel, who worked for Elon Musk, right? So, and they've established their presence in Fernley. And so between Redwood, American Batteries, and Linico, Northern Nevada has established a leadership in the country in terms of positioning itself for recycling these minerals. And the federal government has gone above and beyond in terms of national strategy and designating these minerals as critical to our national economy and even potential national security. And we look at these 5 boxes. The second one is battery storage minerals are included in this: cobalt, graphite, lithium, manganese. Linico stands for lithium, nickel, cobalt, but we also cover the manganese, also cover the graphite. What's fascinating about this is the amount of money that the federal government is putting behind these programs. The Department of Energy in particular is putting forth billions of dollars to enable the supply chain. If you weren't familiar, somewhere between 96 and 99% of this supply chain is in Asia today. Give you a benchmark, there's only about 28 or 30 gigafactories in the world, 2 in the United States, 1 here, 1 in Texas, 26 in China. So that's what's happening, right? And the government's saying we need to move these supply chains, these critical minerals back, into the United States, and they're pouring money into it. UNR has just applied for a grant, a DOE grant, that will establish this area as a regional ecosystem for this whole lithium battery metal supply chain. And we were a supporter and a joiner to that proposal. And so that means a lot of money can come to Nevada, and a lot can be established here. When I was reading their application, the strength of Nevada's environmental laws, the strength of its mining regulation already puts it well ahead of most other states, to be a leader, in this context. And when you look at the 10 locations in the world, in the country, where waste accumulates, you would expect these megatropolises, Florida, New York areas, Texas, but it was pleasant to see that, Reno and Northern Nevada areas, it's right in one of what we call the Sierra Pacific area. Plus, we are here in Northern Nevada, 1 truck day away from 11 different states. And so it makes an ideal location for congregating, this supply chain. And our refining facility, we acquired it from a battery metal recycler called Aqua Metals, who was using it for lead. We sterilized the lead, we repaired the refinery, and this is where we will do some of the downstream operations, of this activity. We've invented and designed and patented our own system, which is extraordinarily safe in the sense that it has a nitrogen blanket. It is extraordinarily clean in the sense that it has a thermal oxidizer. And so we produce super, super pure black mass, which is what basically represents these critical minerals. So that black mass has lithium, nickel, cobalt, and graphite and manganese in it. These are just the scrap metals that come out. All other contaminants are oxidized, burned off and captured, so that we have a nice, dry, clean ability to recycle. Now, why are we here? We're here because the RECRA rules do not allow universal materials to be stored on the same site that they're going to be recycled or processed in. So essentially, everyone in the state has to identify essentially 2 locations, 1 to store, 1 to process. These rules are evolving. We're very involved. The whole lithium industry is forming a sub-association underneath the Nevada Mining Association, because there's some specific things associated with this business. And regulators and politicians appear very keen on these rules evolving. The rules are RECRA, and NDEP interprets RECRA. And so basically we need to store our materials separately from the destination site. And this is why we're establishing a temporary storage, which means the material can only stay there for up to 1 year. It must be less than a year, it can't be more than a year. I've mentioned in Planning Commission also that we prefer not to store any batteries. Business plan number one is that the batteries are delivered just in time and they're crushed and processed and there's no need for storage. That is not a mathematical possibility that every single battery would arrive just in time. So there needs to be some storage, there needs to be some buffer. We ultimately hope to minimize that. And so because we have such a strong presence north of this project site, Comstock Inc., right, is the company that owns 88% of Linico, and Comstock Inc. has properties about 10 square miles that come right up to and above to this site. So we secured the Haywood Quarry, as an ideal location to be storing these batteries. We have aspirations to do more later, but currently the need is to establish a good functional place to store the batteries. Louis talked about what the historical uses were, so I won't repeat them, and what was occurring with no productive use of the facility. I won't repeat that. What we've designed, and we've worked quite a bit with Central Lyon County Fire. They've been remarkable, in fact, giving us all the time that we've needed. We've had one massive roundtable with them, numerous follow-ups with them. They ultimately are a critical component of the conditions of this permit. We have to comply with whatever they need. They've come across to us as very helpful, very knowledgeable, very supportive. Ultimately, they have the final say. But what they're driving us to is to have, originally when we designed this, we were storing here as well. But they said that it's really important to have a mobilization area that can be very effective if there were to be a fire. That was very important. The second most important thing, or the first most important thing, was that every single pallet must have direct access. And so, the ability to access and go after and pull out anything from any location is put in here by design. And then to have ensurety that if there was ever any use of water for firefighting, there would be the ability to have it run off and to capture it in fully lined ponds, of which the procedure would be then to drain those ponds with water trucks and dispose of any of that material as it would happen. We have to plan for these things, but we don't think that we believe that prevention is the most important thing. So the design of the layout, the containment of all the batteries in barrels, as you see in the staff report, which is the proposition. We were debating about metal versus plastic. It sounds like we're leaning hard, and we won't decide, I think, ultimately, Central Lyon County, that plastic will contain all the materials. The other thing that's important to know about these batteries, and I didn't jump over this slide, we'll take all types of batteries. We'll take cell phone batteries, we'll take computer batteries, we'll take an EV car battery. 99% of these batteries today are going to landfills, and they're going to landfills. It's critical materials, nationally important. We're throwing them all away, or they're in your desk, or they're in your drawers in your house. The batteries tend not to leak. If they're heated or something's going on, they can swell. They can leak, hence we want to make sure they're contained. They're all contained within barrels. We are not allowed to take, we are not intending to take any hazardous material. So the only material that we'll receive is universal waste. If it's broken or cracked, it becomes hazardous. We reject it. We don't take it. If it comes on the manifest as hazardous, even if it's not hazardous, we won't take it. So the intention is to take enclosed batteries, enclosed devices, store them, hopefully minimally, not, and then, get them crushed as quickly as possible. We have, even though we haven't closed on the site, the site is owned by decommissioning services. It is fully decommissioned, as Louis said, in terms of a mine site. So it is not a mine site as we sit here and speak today. We cleaned out all that blight, and it was more horrific, way more horrific than we expected. We sealed the gate. We initially put these boulders there. We've since removed the boulders. We put the boulders there because people were cutting the locks and they just kept coming back in. Now we have some very technical contraption, which it's almost impossible to break the lock. So we've removed these for safety purposes. And most importantly, of all the work that we've done so far, is that this will be a facility that will be staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They will literally be monitoring the batteries every hour, and they'll be using heat monitoring and heat sensing on the materials continuously. So these jobs are not security jobs. They're not just night watchmen. They're trained people. They will be monitoring. And if there is a need to extract, or if there is a need to contain material, they will be trained in those reactionary methods, you know. Really, from our perspective, these are good jobs that go 24/7 at the facility. We'll comply with all the in-depth requirements as we always do. Things like stormwater, dust abatement, etc. Are core to our core competency. Chris was the director of health, safety, and environmental at the mine site, has a different job previously. And so we're expert in all these activities. We're always monitoring roads. We're always maintaining roads. And we've actually done some incredible work in terms of highway reconstruction, et cetera. That was voluntary in Story County. The traffic numbers we saw in the report have to anticipate the worst case scenario. I just want to comment on one thing here. This assumed a business plan that would do all crushing and all separating at the processing facility. We've rethought that, and we believe that subsequently having crushing at this site would be optimal. And there's enough property, enough segregation where we could have crushing and storage in the same location. But in the worst case scenario of the original business plan, it represented about 160 truck trips. That includes all the employees coming back and forth to work. It assumes the smallest type of truck, and it assumes a double factor for safety. With all that said, it's about 11% in the worst case scenario of the traffic. Both NDOT and the county commented in staff report. There was no concerns or comments with that, but I still felt compelled to say that if you look at our actual business plans, it would be about a third, of that activity. And so we don't really think we're going to see 10-11% increase in traffic. We think we're going to see 2, 3, 4, maybe ultimately, God willing, 5, if we're really successful. And then just lastly, that idea about putting crushing and separating at this location, it's ideal for it. We have, as Louis said, 240 acres. It's fully secluded. It could ultimately result in a whole different level of industry and operation there. And this would complement, if we were crushing and separating at this site, then the other facility would be used just for final refining. And as we grow, we'd ultimately optimize both facilities. So this is not a proper locational description. This would be set back somewhere much further back, but to get it on one PowerPoint slide, I have to jam it in to one place. But we just think it's a much more incredibly more productive use of this property. So that's my prepared marks, and I can't believe my voice is up. Not well, but so absolutely would love to take questions, please.
Questions for Mr. Geddes? What, they feel bad for you because you don't have a voice?
No,
Jeez.
I just
Okay, I got questions.
Okay.
They don't, I do. So in going through this and was listening in at the planning commission, there was a couple of things that came up that I wasn't sure that were completely addressed.
Please.
And one of those was security fencing. Whether or not you're going to fence the whole property. And I understand when it comes to mining, then that would be required at state level. But this is no longer a mining property. We are now looking at a storage facility. we're talking two different things. So I don't want to rely on the state. So my understanding is that you did plan on providing security fencing around the property.
Yeah, so, I don't know that it was a condition, a big part of it is already fenced, and we would absolutely intend to fence the whole, the operation. We nor anyone would want anybody wandering into the operation, even though it's gonna be staffed 24/7. So I don't know.
So would you have a problem with us adding that as a county condition? So we're not relying on the state to make a determination whether or not it's a mining property
Yeah.
or not, and whether or not they need to
Yeah.
require
I
that.
have no problem with that. I'm 99.999% sure from a mining perspective, it wouldn't be required because we're not mining. But we absolutely have no problem with making sure that the station is fenced.
That's fenced and secure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then of
We would
course,
do
the
that anyway. It would
I
be
know the
honest.
container type is something you mentioned that you're looking at metal and or plastic. Where are you landing with the fire department on that? What are their thoughts? I kind of read a little bit about the potential corrosiveness of using metal.
Yeah.
But my concern was, would it eat through plastic?
Yes.
So
Yeah. So I think first, let me say, give her a question. When you look at the batteries, even the little ones, but the big ones too. About 5 to 6% of the battery is the electrolyte. And I can't sit here and say every single electrolyte in every battery is exactly the same. But generally speaking, they're more hydrocarbon based and not acidic. Having said that, right, I don't think that the electrolyte, we don't think it's gonna leak. We think if it leaks, we're gonna see it right away and put it out. And but if it did leak and sit there, it wouldn't, we don't see that it would corrode a metal or plastic. We think plastic's better. We think plastic's better. We think plastic would be more containing, but we think they both would be fully containing for sure. But with the metal, there could be some conductivity. So we think plastic's much safer overall. So we'll still want Central Lyon County to opine. Our representation to them is it's gonna be contained.
Right.
One way or another.
So no matter our decision today, moving forward, assuming moving forward, you still have to formalize that plan.
They
with
have,
them.
yes, they have to agree that safe, I can tell you right now, and I think it says this in staff report, it will be contained in a type of barrel box that will contain no matter what. There's leakage.
So, and another thing that I was reading when I started looking into this, we don't want a fire, but you have to plan for the worst.
Right.
So I was a little bit concerned because everything mentions putting the fire out with water.
Right.
And everything I read on these batteries said that water is not what you want to use. So is that a discussion that's also being held
Yes.
with fire?
Yes, so we talked about that with them extensively. And we generally agree that, there's two choices, right? You can use water or you can provide an additive to the water. We've talked to Central Lyon County Fire, we've talked to Story County Fire. There seems to be some mixed opinion, as to what was preferable. But I suspect wholly it's gonna be some kind of additive material that is, much more effective if there was a fire. Yeah, I think they'll decide that, right? And they're most knowledgeable, but they were debating it, like while we were talking about it too, right? So they're very cognizant of the issue, I'm sure though, but if you asked me to guess, I think it would be some additive.
Well, both of those things are kind of in their wheelhouse of
Yeah.
this whole process, but I just wanted to make sure those discussions were being had. And I have one last one, because this is not a mining property, because a lot of people have been, when I've heard about this and was looking into it, everybody kind of refers to it like, because it was a mining property, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to adhere to the state rules. Well, no, it's not a mining property. It's a storage facility. So I want to bring up reclamation. It's not a mining property, so the rules are different, right? So what are we looking at? Because you say that this is going to be temporary, however long that is. But at the end of this cycle, someday down the road, when you abandon this as a storage facility, what kind of reclamation is going to be done at that
So
time?
that's a good question. So just one clarification. So I'm not suggesting that the site will necessarily be temporary, just the storage of the battery. The batteries can't stay there for more than a year, which is very good. There's a very good rule. We don't want them to stay there for more than a couple of days. But I think this did come up in the planning commission, and someone said, even though you're not obligated or required to have reclamation, would you be willing to commit to reclamation bonding? And we said yes. So. Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh,
So-
you're next, Louis.
Yeah. Yeah, so we don't have any concerns with that. Facility we have in Story has a reclamation requirement, which is just, to clean the facility out, when you're done, to make sure those minerals weren't residual, that kind of thing, right? So we would have no issues with that.
So I'm gonna go, oh, now you have questions. I'm just joking. Don't look at me like that. He was first. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. I've had a couple of conversations with Chief Harvey as well on this, and I want to commend you for your willingness to work with them and to comply. This is a new situation. Chief Harvey has even said, they're not sure what the best thing is, but I know that they're willing to work with you on that, and I appreciate your willingness to work with them. One thing that did come up that you haven't addressed yet, though, that I've heard, is there was some air quality concerns. And I know that you've done some testing on that. Could you just touch on that briefly?
Absolutely, yes. So if yeah, so ultimately you can see the Mount House community, and you can see Silver City are the two closest communities. And so what we did, and we just did this on our own accord. We ran some dispersion modeling. Worst case scenario, if like there was fire and we ran dispersion modeling as if there was no wind, which, wind is critically important to dispersion. So we ran it in the most conservative, safest way for every possible element that could come out of a fire, right? There was not a scenario where in that conservative thing, and we'll do some more, but in that conservative scenario where there was any exceedances of any limits related specifically to those elements. So we were very happy about that, right? Again, we're planning for the worst. We don't expect worst case fires and things like this, but we want to be ready for any scenario, and so we've been very thoughtful about it. I would also compliment what you said. We found Central Lyon County Fire, even though it's new and it isn't, right? You've got Tesla, you've got Redwood, you've got American Battery, everybody's working departments. Story County may be a little bit further ahead, right? Because of the Tesla, then like they work together as well, which is remarkable. And they're very committed, so for us, those discussions were we were very happy that it's focused and they're committed to this. Yes, we did we assessed it. Nothing even comes to exceedance, right? We'll continue to look at more practical models with wind and everything. But we wanted to say, what if there was no wind? What if it was just all here? What would it be? And it's not. And so I think, when you see, each of these batteries has a diminished amount of these materials, and you actually run the models and the numbers, it's safe. Right? We feel it's very safe.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gray.
Yeah. Because I've been following this technology since Aqua Metals first heard about them. I think in past couple of years, it's been proven that we need to quit relying on China for our metals, and the more we can recapture this stuff, the more we can be more self-reliant. it's ridiculous that we can't get chips. It's ridiculous that we can't get batteries. I mean, it's insane. And all of this stuff, we're talking about potential environmental problems. And what the heck? I mean, did anybody catch the part where he said this is all going into landfills now? I mean, so, I think that's a key aspect that we need to look at. And I just think, hey, what better county to be at the forefront of this, with a group that's got has got a great history of working with community, and as well as, reclamation, and the faith and trust of the communities. I mean, yeah, is there risk? Yeah, there's risk involved in everything. But I got to tell you, and I hate to invoke this phrase from Page, but there's more methyl ethyl death driving through our communities
You don't
every
say
day.
it's good.
I know, because I hate it. I hate it. But I mean, there's more, hazardous materials flowing through our communities every day that we don't know about. At least we do know about this. We are working with, as a county, we are working with the fire department and Linico to, address the fire concerns and everything else. And, like Mr. Gasper said, that the modeling doesn't show, the plume modeling doesn't show any extreme contamination would happen from a fire. And, I feel much more comfortable with, Corrado and his company standing here pitching this than I do anybody else. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Carriola. But it was mentioned, like the reclamation fencing was brought up before, and obviously they don't have a problem with either one of those things. Did you want to add to any of that?
I did. Thank you, Madam Chair. Louis Carriola, for the record. I did want to just kind of report on the planning commission hearing before we move forward. So just like the last item, Chapter 230-06 includes the findings that staff reviews for conditional use permits. Just some of the summaries from the findings in the staff report, notably that the roads department in Lyon County made the determination that the last mile could simply be maintained by the applicants, the county's gravel road standard. That NDOT did not require additional improvements on Highway 50. There are numerous conditions that explicitly state the applicant needs approval through independent review by the fire district before they'll be able to attain a business license. There are quoted policies from the master plan in the staff report, specifically one that states that new industrial uses should only be located in areas that do not adversely impact existing residential settlements, which I think is appropriate for this site. Visual mitigation for the V&T rail line. The applicant has agreed to construct a berm to minimize any potential impact, as well as promising to never impede their ability to continue the business. Again, there are numerous conditions in the staff report. It's a little more heavily conditioned than other items because it did recognize that planning staff and community development are not experts in the storage of these materials, nor are we experts in fire. So we're looking towards the input from the experts for those items. And the planning commission forwarded a recommendation of 5-2 to this body. And two of the items that came up during the planning commission were the fencing, where the applicant agreed to fence off the use, as well as an additional reclamation bond in the event that the use is discontinued. And at the planning commission, the applicants did agree to those conditions being added. At this point, I would like to actually personally apologize for not adding that into your staff report. It was certainly an oversight. Truthfully, we've been a bit overwhelmed in our department. I'll make sure in the future to at least summarize those items in the staff report that you get. In the past, I've struggled a bit with changing the report because I think the planning commission and the board should see the same report. But I can certainly in the front of the reports add the conditions that the applicants agreed to if they do so in a planning commission hearing. So you'll see that in the future. Any other
Commissioner
questions?
Jacobson had a question for you too.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Kroll, so temporary storage of batteries for up to a year. If I was storing the batteries and someone showed up, it would be, oh yeah, these batteries been on the shelf less than a year. What kind of accountability piece do we have that these batteries aren't on the shelf for longer than a year, and who's in charge of that? I mean,
Well, I appreciate the question. We, again, are not presuming to be experts in this. They're going to be state regulations. But we do have some code sections, and there's also a condition. I would call your attention to condition 10, which requires the applicant to submit a number of methodology and practice plans to Lyon County for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy or a business license. So notably, I can read some of this language into the record. The applicant shall submit for review and approval by the Lyon County Community Development Department, general facility plans, a security plan, communication plan, a training plan, and an inspection. So this language is lifted from state requirements. This is not original language, and these types of methodologies are not something we invented here at Lyon County. So we are intending to have on the record all of these plans, and then presumably, if there were any indication, of code enforcement issues or some reason that we would have to investigate, I suppose we would have on record the plan to walk in and ask for, manifests that would demonstrate compliance.
and who from the county, sorry, sir, Madam Chair, who from the county would be the one enforcing this? I don't know.
It's a good question. I mean, maybe county managers here, I would presume our records, code enforcement, potentially fire.
Andrew Haskin, interim county manager. So anytime a business license gets submitted through the clerk treasurer's office, there's actually a form that the various agencies have to sign off on. So planning, we through the building department, actually there's 2 signatures on there under community development. One is for the planning department and one is for the building department. So they actually go out and do an on-site inspection. So they would be the ones checking on all the plans, making sure that they are submitted as required in the conditional use permit. So planning won't sign off on that unless all the conditions are met in the CUP.
Thank you.
Well, just real quickly, I mean, because we don't have anybody from fire here to kind of answer and sort of their own thing. But in these types of situations, doesn't like Central Lyon Fire, don't they do like annual, or don't they have types of inspections anyways, like they do on any business?
Yeah, so
Especially something like this, that they want to make sure they're in compliance.
one of the signatories on the business license would be the appropriate fire district. And so they actually do their own inspection on site prior to signing off on that. And then they do an annual as well. It's my understanding.
Madam Chair, I have a motion whenever you're ready.
Okay, Commissioner Gray.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item 17B. Read it. Approve a conditional use permit requested by Lyon to construct a battery pre-recycling waste and salvage facility in Mount House at the current end of Industrial Parkway. Site will provide for temporary storage of batteries, palletized bundles prior to shipping for recycling. To include these, correct me if I'm wrong on these numbers, I was trying to count them up as went, 7 findings and 23 conditions, or was it 24 conditions?
22 here, there would be 2 additional, one would be the
24,
fencing,
okay.
the second, the reclamation bond.
I'll second that.
So all the findings and all 24 conditions. Okay.
Findings A through G.
Yeah, I think it's A through G.
Yeah, A through G. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Yes, ma'am.
To approve. Any further discussion? Okay, now we get to go to public comment. Looking, do we still have 2 pages, Andrew?
We do, and I don't see any on Zoom.
Okay, do I have anybody here that for public comment? Please step up and state your name for the record.
My name is Don Bergstrom from Dayton, and I've known Corrado and many of the people that have worked for Comstock mining for many years, Comstock Mining being the parent company of Linico. And they've always been supporters of old history and supporters of the Comstock Foundation, which I am a director of, and consequently Corrado is the chair of. All of the people that I've met within the Comstock and Linico have been really promoting history and really concerned with the preservation of history. And from what I've seen, they're always embracing contacting the local communities, the cities, or wherever they're working, and making sure that they're well-versed in whatever projects they are working on. And also, Comstock has received many awards over the last number of years in reclamation, restoration, safety from the Nevada Mining Association. And then also they received a reclamation and sustainability award from the BLM when they rerouted 342, you know, when that mine caved in and stuff. So they're very concerned with that type of work. I would just like to recommend that the commission approve Linico's CUP report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Elaine Bergstrom, and I would like to see the commission approve this CUP request on behalf of Linico. I have had the opportunity to work with Corrado and his team and to determine assessments, risks, and opportunities for the Comstock Foundation, and I have observed his work he's done with some parts of the Comstocking, and I am very impressed, and I feel like he always does due diligence to any project he is willing to put forward. Again, this probably isn't a project that most of us want to see in our backyards. However, we're looking at progress and meeting the needs of today's consumers. And so, yes, the county will be challenged with probably some traffic issues, but I think that the state and the county can meet those needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Did I miss anyone?
Alexia Sober for the record. I've been asked by 2 others from the community who couldn't make it today to read the letters that they wrote on their behalf. And then I also have a comment for myself. Is that okay?
We don't normally read in the letters, but you
May I
can
submit
provide
them?
copies to be added to the record.
Okay, may I do that? And then I have a comment myself that I would like to read.
Okay,
in
you can,
person.
you're free to make your own comment.
Okay.
You're just not allowed to make somebody else's.
Sure.
So if you
noted.
could provide copies to Andrew, then he can make us copies.
Wonderful. I will remember that for the future. And I wrote my comment, so I don't trip over my words, so I'll read it, but I'm here in person. Again, Alexia Sober for the record. So this is in response, obviously, to the CUP for Linico today for their temporary storage facility in Mound House. I'm Alexia Sober. I'm a 3rd generation resident of Northern Nevada. I've lived on the Comstock since 2012. Love it up there. Highly recommend it. I, in my life, have been and am a civic organizer and an activist, a planning commissioner currently for Story County. I am an archaeologist, a small business owner in Story County, the board secretary and strategic planner for the Comstock Foundation for History and Culture, founding member of the Chamber of Commerce since May 2000, recently, excuse me, and an employee of Comstock Inc. since May 2020 as their senior manager for community relations and corporate social responsibility. As one can see, I'm a very busy person who dedicates time to issues of importance concerning the well-being of my community and my home. Throughout the course of my life, I have created coalitions and civic groups to call attention and find solutions to serious issues in my community by elevating the voices of those who would be impacted most. I have fought for transparency in government and those in positions of power to allow fair and equitable access to citizens' rights to peacefully live and conduct business without fear of reprisal from those in power. I do not stand down from wrongdoing. I hold Comstock Inc. to the same standards I hold my elected officials and those in those positions of power. And Comstock has, in my tenure in Virginia City and the Comstock, has and continues to live up to my expectations and standards. And for that reason, I chose to give my time to help elevate and accomplish Comstock's goals. I also give my time to ensure that the voices in the communities that matter to me have a voice at the table with Comstock as well. It takes a village. As such, I will confidently and happily attest to Comstock's reputation of transparency and willingness to go over and above regulations when it comes to protecting the safety and lifestyles of the community or communities in which it conducts business. I also bear witness on a daily basis to Comstock's demonstrated competency in hiring experts who practice the same transparency and a strict adherence to elevating the voices and the safety of the communities in all levels of their business practice. And that is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment?
There,
Yes.
Madam Chair. I don't know how you want to handle this, but there was a letter that came in from Mr. Miles that he wanted read into the record.
We wanted to include it in the record, right?
I thought he requested to read it into the record since he couldn't be here, but let me check.
Where we are not required to
Okay.
read them
No,
into
I
the
just-
record. We can, everybody, I believe, got a copy and copies can be supplied for public and part of the record.
I am good with that.
So not seeing any other public comment, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, my apologies to staff. You're probably starving, but we're gonna break for lunch. We'll be back. What time is it?
12:35.
So we'll be back by 1:40. It's okay. Your stomach was the one that was growling. I heard it. I heard it. You know, I don't know. So we all ready? Are we recording?
Madam Chair, we're ready when you are.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Let me actually get my agenda in front of me. Okay, we're going to go back to the regular agenda 18A for possible action, approve a resolution to dissolve the Mason Valley Advisory Board and repealing resolution number 11-015.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Anderson.
Actually, I think it may behoove us to move the resignation of one of the members of the board before this. I don't know, because if we dissolve this, his resignation is a moot point, I'm guessing, so. I don't-
Yes, Andrew Haskin for the record. Yeah, so we put it second because if the board gets dissolved, then you won't have to take
Okay.
action on the second.
Thank you. Madam Chair.
So I'll move the motion since it's in Mason Valley here that we approve a resolution to dissolve the Mason Valley Advisory Board and repealing resolution number 11-015.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
It really bothers me to do this, but I did talk to people in Mason Valley and yeah, my mic's on. One of the comments that was made is that basically Mason Valley has 4 meetings they could make at the current time. They can make their advisory board meeting, or they can come to 2 board of commissioner meetings, or they could go to the planning commission meeting, all of them in the same place. So many of them said, no big deal. We've got plenty of places we can express our opinions because we live here in the county seat. I think that comment was made also a couple of weeks ago. But I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to have a lot of people that were very, very upset. And it's kind of, if we really need to, and I told them if we need to, we can get it back together. Okay, there'll just be something downstream. But right now, you've got 1 member left on the board. I can also say that I've attended just about every one of the meetings in the last year to 2 years, actually, at this point. And I've been pretty much the only one in the audience. There have been some meetings where there's some other people, but it's usually 2 board members and me sitting right about where you are, talking back and forth. I give my report, 30 minutes later, we were done. That doesn't mean that it doesn't serve a purpose. But if things come up in the future and we need to do something, I'd be more than happy to always have an emergency meeting. If there's some information that needs to get out immediately, I'd be more than happy to try to advertise and get something going here where they can get questions in. But right now, I have to just support it based on the past performance. That's all I have to say.
Okay, well, I'm going to go to public comment. Do we still have 2 pages?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, let the record show, the vote was 4-1 with Commissioner Henderson, as the nay, excuse me. Okay, so 18B is now a mute point.
Madam Chair. It's possible actually, but I would just like to thank Lance Moffett for being on the Mason Valley Advisory Board.
Okay, Steve, since it is on the agenda, do we need to just make a motion to take no action?
You just say no action based on the decision.
Okay, did you get that? Okay, we're good. All right, 18C for possible action, acknowledge resignation from Ted Steck from the Smith Valley Parks and Recreation Board and advertise for the vacancy.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we acknowledge the resignation of Mr. Ted Steck from the Smith Valley Parks and Recreation Board and advertise for the vacancy.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, human resources for possible action. Approve creation of an emergency communications manager position and authorize a budget transfer from general fund contingency for salaries, benefits, and services and supplies in the amount of $175,689.
Question, Madam Chair. Just on the wording of that, it's, emergency communications. Is this to include communications over the sheriff's department, or is this just broadly general term communications like with other entities and with, the EOCs and stuff?
I had planned to address that.
Okay, all right, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that communications portion
Mr.
earlier.
Nosky, please.
I'll make sure I address your question, Commissioner Gray, in the presentation. Eric
Thank you.
Malafsky, HR Director, for the record. The last time Lyon County had an emergency management position was 2010. At that time, the position was held by Andrew's predecessor, Jeff Page. When Jeff stepped up as county manager in 2010, the emergency manager position went away, and Jeff continued to perform those duties over the past approximately 12 years. With Jeff's separation recently, the need has arisen to again make sure that this county has the right emergency preparedness, the right person in that that has that experience to be able to make sure that we're ready to address emergencies and disasters. And so that's what's created the need for this item. In terms of what the position that we're proposing would do, we've circulated our most recent draft of the job description, proposed job description for this position. To summarize it, we made sure to include in the job description all the duties that are set forth in Lyon County Code. So preparedness, mitigation, recovery, all the things that are in the code. We've also tried to be pretty thorough in capturing everything that goes into that, everything from creating the emergency management plan, setting up the EOC, all the way through things like ensuring compliance with FEMA reimbursement requirements. And so that's all set forth in the job description. In addition to the emergency management functions, and here I'm getting to Commissioner. We also envision this position will perform communications management for the county. It's sort of a natural fit in the sense, and this part will be a touch pessimistic, but the public is often very attuned to us when there is something, an emergency or something going a little haywire. Where's the flood? Where's the fire? Where's the shelter set up? What resources are available for evacuees? You know, which areas are captured within the boil alert and so on. And so it makes sense to have the person who's going to be sitting sort of in the cockpit on and addressing a lot of these emergencies be the person that speaks to the community about those things. Yes, Commissioner Gray, we also envision it will be available, the position, for example, be on call to the lieutenants in their areas if they need to get out notice on something, to the sheriff's office and all other county departments. Right now, communication is pretty decentralized from Lyon County's various departments and offices to the communities, and this will help sort of bring that together. It's not going to be all bad too. We included some stuff in here, or all the doom and gloom stuff about like social media management and that kind of stuff too. Lyon County's at a point now where it may not be that you have like 40 hours a week out of an emergency management and a communications management position. Putting the two together, I think we've got more than enough for someone to do, and hopefully, knock on wood, but we don't overwhelm this person that comes in. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and no, I'm glad to hear that, especially about the 40 hours. What I was wondering is if there might be an opportunity here, maybe to partner with Story County or Douglas County or Churchill County, and maybe have somebody that, we do other things to other counties, maybe absorb half the costs, and they're, doing both county. I mean, usually when one hits us, one hits the other. And so I don't know if there's an opportunity there or not, but I would think there would be.
We had similar thoughts, and to be clear, like we've not reached out to officials in Story or Douglas yet. We have reached out though, for example, to the local fire districts and run thoughts about, hey, is this something we could do via an interlocal agreement or something like that, as opposed to hiring a position in-house. The short of it is like, that would work potentially okay, as long as that jurisdiction is not also dealing with the emergency, in which case they're going to be so busy with their own stuff that it may be hard for them to take care of our needs as well. In addition, you wouldn't get the communications function that we're also dealing with.
You see, and I almost thought it was more of a natural fit if they were experiencing the same emergency, especially when you stand up an EOC and you can coordinate resources better. I mean, and that's what I was thinking of Story County. We get a lot of flooding from Story County and it affects them at the same time. And it would make sense to have, a unified plan and unified resources.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm waiting.
Oh, okay. I just,
Sorry, I saw your hand. I was just trying to get to these questions.
I would ultimately have the same concern that if we were to try to co-op this with another county, that Lyon County's needs may be subordinated in the event of emergency to whatever is going on in the other jurisdiction or whatever the other organization is doing.
Okay.
Commissioner Henderson has questions as well.
Can I add to that real quick? Andrew Haskin, So it would be kind of tough to operate two emergency operation centers at the same time. So.
I wouldn't envision two operations. I would envision one EOC
Okay.
and you've got your multiple ESFs there. I mean, it's,
Mhm. Well, I think that would still pose some challenges. I said.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank both Mr. Haskin and Mr. Malavsky.
Yes,
Did
sir. Yeah.
did I do good?
Yeah.
Okay. I had lots of questions when I first saw the agenda about this item, and I really appreciate you guys making the job description available, because that relieves some of them. Because I don't think that we need a 40-hour-a-week emergency manager. I do like the idea of including the PIO function, because it's always good when we have one voice speaking for the county. That gives the public a level of reassurance. And I was also happy to see in the job description, the part of the description is to apply for and administer grants.
Yes.
Because I think that's another need that this county has is a grants administrator. And I've had some preliminary discussions with Mr. Haskin about bringing an agenda item on that in the future. But I want to thank you for taking the time through emails and talking to me and providing this, because you alleviated my concerns with this position, and I'm ready to support it. Thank you.
Commissioner Hockenay.
Yeah, thank you for the update. Being the member of the local emergency planning committee, working with Jeff, it was always overwhelmed with a lot of stuff. He knew how to take care of things, but there is so much going on. I know that I've been already contacted about the fact that, when Jeff left, we kind of had a big hole in emergency planning. So my concern is that there are some things that we are behind on, and it's not through any fault of Jeff, other than there's just so much to do that we're actually need to catch up on some of the federal requirements and state requirements. And so I look at this as it's kind of a win-win overall. Whoever we hire is going to be swamped for probably months and months getting stuff done and caught back up so that we can actually stay out of trouble.
Excellent point,
Okay.
Commissioner Hockenay. We agree. We were fortunate, especially fiscally speaking, to have Jeff do it for all those years, and he did a very good job with the time limitations and all that he had on him. But everything you just said, we see it the same way. We agree.
Anybody else? Mr. Foley.
Josh Fuller, Lyon County Comptroller for the record. To address Commissioner Gray's concerns, we were wondering, and Eric covered that, about whether we could contract with another county or go in halves. My recommendation to the board is that we take a look at creating our own position to start with. And then once we get that position established and up and running, then we reach out if we have capacity to the other entities that we may have economies of scale to work with, and see if we can do that. But to start with, maybe we just get this piece started first and see where we're at with that.
Well, and that was one of my other questions, which Josh, you and I actually talked about that, was, not just the other counties, but doing it on a contract instead of an actual employee. And so do you want to address that just a little bit? So why we're going this way and didn't go the other way?
So why we're going with the full-time employee when we take a look at it is because we feel like the volume of work with the combined position, as Commissioner Anderson pointed out, it's big enough, and as Commissioner Hockley pointed out, it's big enough that I think it's going to be a full-time job for someone, and we want those dedicated resources here. Or if you do a contractor, you may or may not get all that depending on what else they're doing. And in the interim, for whether it's 30 days or 60 days, whatever it is, to fill this position properly, I think we have enough expertise on staff in conjunction with the state Department of Emergency Management. We've worked with Dave Fogerson for years. I think we can keep things going during this time period until we get someone on board.
Commissioner Henderson.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion if you're ready.
Commissioner Gray, did you have a question, or is the motion okay first?
No, that's fine.
You both had your hands up. I'm sorry, I just went to one. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the creation of an emergency/communications manager position and authorize a budget transfer from general fund contingency for salaries, benefits and services and supplies in the amount of $175,689.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to,
Comment?
this would be a good time, yeah, a comment. Just, want to make it clear, because I know we've been beat up here lately about some other stuff. So that 175 is not just the pay and allowance. That's, I mean, everything encompassed in it. So I just want to make sure that was put out there. So there you go.
Do you want me to break it down or are you good?
No, I'm good. No, I get it. It's just, there was people complaining about, people's pay and stuff. And they don't realize you've got to pay into PERS. You've got to do all of the other ancillary things that go along with it, to include the supplies and everything else when you're bringing a position.
A big part of that 61,000, I believe, is a vehicle. And so that is a one-time upfront cost that we're going to have to take on this year. Approximately 14,000 of it was services and supplies. The remainder is salary, pension, and.
You said 61,000 for a vehicle?
Yeah.
What are we buying?
So you saw that black vehicle out earlier. I'm just Gospel Lyon County Council, for the record, that is the amount that we put in for Ford Explorers for the sheriff's office. So I just grabbed that amount from what Dustin had done in the budget for this last year for the sheriff's office.
How about a Ford Escape?
I'm not even going.
Guy.
We could have fun.
Do
with
they
that
still
afterwards.
sell go-karts? No.
Yes. What's that little one? Nissan Versa?
And we're having a hard time getting the Explorers, just so.
It goes back to the conversation we had earlier about mining.
But again, just to comment, tagging on to Commissioner Gray, yeah, when you're looking at the dollar amount, that's not all salaries. Like you said, that's a vehicle. There's other components to that. And not to mention the person will be wearing more than one hat. Filling that position, so. Anyways, last I checked, we had a motion and a second public comment. Do we have anybody for public comment?
I don't see any on Zoom.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 28 for possible action, allocate first year opioid litigation funding to the Human Services Department to create the additional positions of clinical director, administrative assistant, senior case manager, and the associated operating cost purchase. Helps if I remember to put the comma in there. Anyways, purchase a database system as well as fund to support recreational activities for at-risk youth, and to the Sheriff's Department for behavioral health services within the jail.
Good
Miss Shayla,
afternoon.
or Miss Holmes, like, sorry.
You can call me Shayla. I'll be. Shayla Holmes, Director, Lyon County Human Services. I do have a presentation to walk you guys through and kind of fill in some of the gaps based off of the backup documentation that was provided.
The day you provide us with an actual walkthrough virtual, that's gonna be really cool.
No kidding, huh? For today, it'll just be a PowerPoint.
Okay.
Verbal. To give a quick overview, I know we've talked about this a lot. I know there's been a lot of information out there, but I just want to make sure that I touch on this when we're talking about our county allocations. So there is a lot of opioid funding coming into the state through the One Nevada agreement. The state of Nevada holds the majority of those funds. And they're requiring a needs assessment be done, which we have a draft needs assessment that we will be utilizing to write to grants to the state when they open up that opportunity. So there is a large bucket of opioid money available, and that those recommended uses not only have to align with the litigation opioid uses that have come out that we have to use for our county allocation, but then also they have a subcommittee created through NRS last legislative session through the Attorney General's office, and then one also through the Department of Health and Human Services, and they're identifying what uses they will allow grants to be written for or fund through their bucket. And like with any grant funding, you guys have heard a lot about grant funding today. It comes with a lot of reporting and strings attached. So not only does it have to meet their needs, has to have the needs assessment that also says it's a need, but then it also has to align with all of their other requirements. The county allocation that we're receiving, because we signed on to that One Nevada agreement, has to align with the substance use abatement guidelines that came across that litigation. So it doesn't have to also align with the state needs assessment. It doesn't have to align with all those grant requirements and all those other things. We get a little bit more flexibility, but it does have to work within those substance use abatement guidelines. All of them, whether it's the state or county allocations, are payments over the next 16 years in a variety of different ways, be it one time the first year. Several have them spanning through the full 16 years. I think the most recent settlement that they just finished up with is just 2 payments with 1 million this year and 1 million next year. So there's a variety of funds that are coming in different amounts over an extended period of time, not just to the state, but also to the county. I am presenting today what I think would be the best plan for us to utilize this first year funding in order for us to maintain programs. So that's the funding, lots of arms, lots of possibilities. I just want to present to you today for our first year county allocation. So how we got here and the community needs, and this also, it all aligns with our county needs assessment, which I'll be presenting to you guys at the Board of Health on October 20th, maybe, I think that's the right date. But when we look at how we can efficiently abate substance use, we need to look at a variety of different factors, particularly when it comes to opioids. And so looking at predictive factors for misuse is one of the best ways for us to be able to utilize the available data to make the best decision. Adults, and so a variety of data has been provided to us through NACO, through the state, through the Office of Analytics, all of which will be presented in far more depth with the needs assessment. But I just wanted to give a high level overview of what that's showing us. One of which is that adults are on a steady increase for depressive disorder and illegal drug use. Our youth are seeing an increase in dating violence, and our youth are also seeing an increase in ACEs, that adverse childhood events. Our youth are also seeing an increase in depressive symptoms, and our youth are also showing an increased comfortability with illegal drugs. And then we also have actual substance misuse, actual opioid overdose, and prescription rates. So I just want to show you guys some of the data that we're utilizing to come to these decisions and why we are proposing what we're proposing. So this, and you guys have heard this before. You think back to our Child Abuse Prevention Month, and you guys remember DCFS standing here telling you the majority of the removals come from parents with substance use. This is the actual data for Lyon County. 2021, 53.9% of the removals were due to substance use. And you can see that's just been on a climb with an anomaly happening in 2018. For rural Nevada emergency room counters for opioid related issues. So this could be an overdose, this could be an accidental overdose or misuse for somebody with a prescription. But emergency room encounters involving opioids, we've had 46 in 2021, the highest for rural counties, next to 9. For opioid deaths by opioid type, and what you see there is the NSS. So that is a form of synthetic. So that's not fully synthetic opioids, but it is a form of a synthetic opioid, and they track it separately. But you can see that we had a peak in that as far as death goes in 2018, and then it started to come down, and now it's going back up. That could be in relation to the increase in fentanyl that we're seeing in the area, not just our area, really nationally, if there's an issue with fentanyl. And then this is the other one that I want to really highlight as well, which is the prescription use of opioids. So they've changed a lot of legislation that puts a lot of more restrictions on how providers can write prescriptions for opioids, such as having to do different screenings and assessments, risk factors, and then people have to come in more often to re-up their prescriptions. They don't just do those auto refills anymore. But even with all of those changes, you can see that we have a huge amount of prescriptions still happening within Lyon County. And the majority of that, from when I talk with our EMS partners, is our older adults. So we do have a large portion of our senior population that utilize prescription opioids licitly for pain management and as a quality of life factor now. So that is another layer that we have to consider when we're looking at how we want to utilize these dollars. So data like that, and that's not all of it, there's a ton of it, and I could go into a huge amount of detail, but I think those are the highlights or the high points. We've also been working on substance use issues for a really long time. This isn't unfortunately new, but now we have the funding to be able to do something a little bit more substantial about it. In 2016, my predecessor brought out the Game Center and they conducted a workshop working on the sequential intercept mapping. That workshop's really important because that's how our MOST team was born, our mobile outreach safety team that goes out and conducts assessments in response to individuals in the community that are experiencing a behavioral health issue. We know from data that the majority of those folks seen on the MOST team do have a substance use involved issue, whether their behavioral health problem is caused by substance abuse or they're using substance use because they have a behavioral health problem. No matter how you look at it, that team responds to a lot of substance use issues. And in 2021, the majority of the calls they responded to were also older adults, folks over the age of 60. That team does not currently serve youth, so that is a major gap for us as well. In 2019, through our Resilient 8 funding, a grant funding that we got, we conducted the Lyon County Opioid Summit, where we had a variety of other stakeholders and folks there where we talked about opioids specifically within Lyon County. And the afternoon, we facilitated a workshop discussing what we would like to see for our community and how we would abate substance use and opioid use or misuse with that as well. And then most recently in 2022, we had our Lyon County Youth Stepping Up initiative, where we talked about a variety of different issues within our youth and how we can divert them from the juvenile system. And that includes a lot of substance use for our youth as well and behavioral health issues. So all of those workshops, we've been compiling data and getting input from the community and asking stakeholders what they would like to see happen within the community to abate substance use. And like I mentioned, for the Game Center, Fast and Most were born out of that. Naloxone distribution came out of the Opioid Summit. System of Care happened alongside the Youth Stepping Up initiative. That is a program specifically for youth with behavioral health issues, where we're able to go in and provide low-level intervention assessment and get them directly to multidimensional family therapy if necessary and if they qualify for that. And all of these programs are funded through grants, as you guys have heard. Grants are not the most stable funding, and as most grants that you've heard about continue to depreciate. So outside of stuff that's legislatively mandated, which is very minimal, you get like your community services block grant, which is protected at the federal level. You've got some emergency shelter grant funds through HUD protected at the federal level, but with every legislative session, our grant funds are at risk of reduction or elimination entirely. And these programs, the community has spoken very loud and clear about being beneficial, many of them of which you guys also support. And we would like to see them stay, and we would like to see them stable. All of them also abate substance use issues. So recommendations that have come out of our needs assessment are, there's several of them, but the three that I want to tackle utilizing this first year funds are these, which is to increase crisis response services, which would be most, to be also tailored to youth and seniors. We also want to maximize available Medicaid structure to create models of sustainability. And we want to increase naloxone access. So right now we don't have full-time human services out here in Yerington. And last year OD mapping showed 20 overdoses. So not necessarily deaths, but overdoses in the Yerington Smith Valley area. So there's definitely a need for it out here. The other point, and I think I've made this, but I just want to make sure that we're, instead of creating new programs with limited funding, knowing that this opioid money is going to end, that just doesn't make sense when we have programs that we want to continue and to increase capacity. And right now we have the opportunity to create a funding stream that will ensure stability of these existing programs and create the potential for increased capacity to serve additional populations. So what I provided to you guys, and I realize in hindsight that it didn't make much sense to anybody that wasn't living in my brain, was this document that was included in your guys' backup as far as what provider type 14 and Medicaid reimbursement looks like. So all of those programs I just mentioned to you guys, plus more that we offer at Human Services, are Medicaid billable. We aren't currently set up to be a Medicaid provider. Under provider type 14, which is a behavioral health provider, you have to have a clinical director. You also need to have the capacity to bill Medicaid. Those two things are really what's holding us back from being able to bill Medicaid for the services we provide. To be eligible for Medicaid, you have to be at 138% of the federal poverty level or less. That's the basic, like, super simple way of looking at it. The Division of Welfare and Supportive Services employees have different formula structure that they utilize. So they take out costs like medical costs, other things that they look at when somebody's being applying for Medicaid and being deemed eligible. So what we did in our department when putting together this analysis is I just looked at who right now in our current services are at 138% of poverty or less. Some folks at 150% of poverty or potentially even higher, depending on how many dependents they have and other exclusionary items that they deduct from their gross income to see where they're at, would probably be Medicaid eligible. I'm not a Medicaid eligibility worker. A lot of that stuff's pretty hard to figure out in the formulas. So we just went with 138% of poverty. So if you're at 138% of poverty or less, you're Medicaid eligible. So looking at our existing structure, because Medicaid's complicated. I've been spending a lot of time with Medicaid over the last 6 to 8 months or so and really learning this and really figuring this out and how it could apply to our department. So in children's services, right now they do targeted case management. They are eligible to be billing for that if the individual assessed at a level 1 or 2 on the state assessment and are at a higher rate of reimbursement because those are bachelor's levels positions. So for services providing right now to our average caseload for the average amount of time that we spend with them within the Medicaid allocatable hours and billing processes, our children's services team could potentially be bringing in $76,000 a year, very minimum, because there's also some technical stuff in Medicaid. We as a government entity would be eligible for an increased rate waiver, which this is just using the base lowest possible rate possible. So this is the smallest projection using the smallest possible number. So I wanted to make sure any projection that I'm presenting to you is reasonably achievable. Our adult services team provides basic skills training. They would be eligible at a lower rate right now. They're not bachelor's level case managers, so they're eligible at a lower rate of reimbursement. But based on current services right now, we'd be bringing in about $48,000 for their services. For senior services, right now, it is the smallest amount. They're not bachelor's level, and grant funding right now only allows us to do Medicaid billable services. So the targeted case management or basic skills training for individuals with dementia or dementia-like symptoms. So our grant funding really limits what we're able to do for our senior population, but we do anticipate this would be much higher if they weren't constrained to grant funding and what they're able to do and who they're able to serve because of grant funding. If we had a clinical director and we're able to bill for behavioral health services, so all of the assessments, either the CASI or the locus, it just depends on if you're an adult or a youth, which assessment that is. Assessments are done on or reimbursed on a per assessment basis. We could potentially earn 148,000, almost 149,000. For our crisis response, which is most, about 78,000. For the case manager providing all of those contacts and follow-ups, about 61,000. So, and then JPO is also eligible to bill for Medicaid, and they also leave quite a bit of money on the table with a projection of about 62,000. So all of these are services we do right now, and these projections are based off of the services we provide right now, but we're not able to bill Medicaid for them because we don't have this structure. So we're potentially leaving on the table 478,000-ish a year, if not more, because these are really low projections based on Medicaid rates and all of the things I've already touched on. That's what we leave on the table for not being a Medicaid provider. So what I'm proposing in our first year budget is to look at this opioid allocation as a potential seed money for us to get into the Medicaid billing game. And when you look at the proposed budget and you look at the total cost of the proposed budget at 425,000, we would be making more than that in 1 year of billing Medicaid for existing services. And by getting into this structure and building the structure within our department, we then also increase the capacity to provide more of those services and reach more of the population, while also stabilizing the funding because we've diversified the funding stream that's now no longer reliant on grants. I know I got into the weeds there for a minute. I know it's late in the afternoon after lunch. So is there any questions at this point in time? Anything that I can?
Commissioner Jefferson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Holmes, thank you. I think you covered my concern. I'm always leery about tying positions to grants because when the grants go away, what do we do with these 3 positions? So, but from what I'm understanding, if you can hold my hand here for a second as I process this. So the Medicaid overview, painted a picture that these positions are sustainable positions through Medicaid, the Medicaid reimbursements. Is that correct? Okay, so this will not have a downstream effect on the county budget.
It should not, no.
Okay. And then I guess in the first year, the opioid money gets us up and running. Let's say Medicaid comes in and covers some of those reimbursements. Does that Medicaid money stay in this area, or does the opioid money then stay in this money? Which one will we use first? I guess from a book standpoint, that money, do we have to use the opioid money, or can that then be banked? I'm probably not clear. I'm probably mud.
Do you want to take it?
So I guess what I'm asking is, so this not only is self-sustaining, but it may also eventually generate revenue for your social services in this area.
So Josh Foley, Lyon County Comptroller, to address that question, hopefully as directly as I can. If we spend $100,000 in salaries, benefits, or supplies, and Medicare says we will reimburse 50,000 of it, we can only charge 50,000 to opioid, the rest will be charged in Medicare, the revenues come in and fall out where they are. But we only charge opioid what Medicare doesn't cover, or Medicaid, I should say, in this case.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anybody else have any other questions?
If there's nothing else, I'd like to make a motion.
You may.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion that we allocate the first year opioid litigation funding to Human Services Department to create the additional positions of clinical director, administrative assistant, senior case manager, and the associated operating costs, purchase a database system, as well as fund to support recreational activities for at-risk youth, and to the Sheriff's Department for the behavioral health services within the jail.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just
Commissioner
want
Gray.
to say, great plan, self-sustaining, a way to bring in additional funding. It's the way the money was supposed to be used, and you guys put together a hell of a plan, so thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just want to tag on that. I know you've been digging into this for a while, and when I saw what you put together, I thought it was great. We get so much funding that is one-time monies, one time for this, one time for that, and it goes away, grant funding like some positions. Yeah, great work putting it together and finding a way to make us self-sustaining, hopefully. And this all coming out of the first year budget. So we should be having further discussions. Well, you won't with me personally, but I'll come to your office and say hi. Moving forward with the rest of the funding that will be coming in. So anyways, great job.
Thank you.
So I can't see the screen, so public comment. Anybody got hands up? We have an E. Smith.
Eric.
Yes, this is Eric Smith, Chief Juvenile Probation Officer, Lyon County. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay, because I've been told in the past sometimes my audio is poor. It is a good plan, especially speaking from the youth services side. We definitely have a growing need in our county. Mental health since COVID seems to be more or less kind of through the roof, to put it simply. So I think this is going to bring a lot of needed services, especially emergent services, to those youth in need in all of our communities that they currently lack. We have good technical assistance. We have a strong relationship with some of our other juvenile probation partners who are currently doing this, and then leveraging those funds to expand services for their youth in their counties for better outcomes down the road. So we're very excited to kind of see that move forward. You know, we really, at this point with our hospitals closing down, we have to kind of shore up and really work with our community-based partners to keep our kids in our community and not look to say send them out of state or to, you know, more congested areas where our kids tend to become more sophisticated and bring that sophistication back to our communities. So again, with that being said, we're really hopeful, and we're going to work hard to make this work.
So I'm sorry for not recognizing you. The whole E. Smith, all in lowercase, kind of threw me for a second.
I thought it was Emmett Smith, the football player.
Yeah, it just totally threw me. I apologize.
I wish I could run like him.
Wish I had his bank account.
So any other public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I'm going to move to agenda request. I'm not going to read that in. And we have any agenda request? Commissioner Gray.
Couple things real quick. I would like to get an update on the execution of COVID funds on the 20th. You know, what we've allocated, what, you know, if there's, what I'm looking for is if there's going to be anything we can't execute in time or can't execute at all. So you don't need to answer it now, Josh. This is just a request.
When you say COVID funds, are you talking about?
The ARPA funds, yeah, anything tied to that. So also just an update on the Mountain House Community Center, where we stand with that. You know, remodeling it, you know, what the status is on that. And then also I'm going to ask for this by address, the 20 Palomino Drive. If we can get an update from the department that's involved in that, they have the condemned house that people are living in now and everything else, and find out and that's a situation that I think needs to be addressed. And then on a good note, December 16th, Mount House Christmas party. It's going to be geared towards kids on the 16th of December, 6 p.m. Pictures with Santa Claus. We're going to try and have a gift for every kid. Being said, if you guys have gift cards or things you guys want to donate, from your agency or from anywhere, it would be greatly appreciated, because we want to make sure every kid leaves with a little something with them, when they go. So, and there'll be cookies and hot chocolate. We're gonna model it after Silver Springs is shindig. Won't be a tree lighting, but it's gonna be a fun time. So, and what day is Silver Springs this year? Do you know? Tell me it's not the same day.
To be announced.
Okay, just don't make sure it's not Friday the 16th.
No, we usually do it on
a Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah. So we should be fine.
Good.
Commissioner Henderson, did you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just another request to TCID BOR on a canal update for Fernley, if they could come and present. And then just a reminder, I believe Scott Nichols from Ormat's coming to report on the geothermal activity in Lyon County. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Commissioner Hawken.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I had talked about this earlier about trying to get a briefing from the forestry department, and haven't been able to set up a date, but as soon as they get back with me, I'd kind of like to get a presentation from them on kind of the fire safety issues. Although we're getting past a little bit, it's still staying hot and dry. So I really would like to get them out here. I just haven't heard back from them.
Okay. Andrew, I think you got my list that I told you could take off of today, so we weren't here all night. So just put it on the next one. I won't add to it, okay?
It's going to be a busy meeting.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was trying to lighten this one for you, and it still got busy. So commissioner comments. I'm going to start with Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just like to congratulate Andrew for running his first meeting.
Yeah, same here. Good job. You made it through.
Like, am I gonna say your name or not?
I just want to make comments about thanking facilities, Mr. Homestead and road department with Mr. Holman. we're getting out there and tearing up that asphalt at the park, at Dressler Park. I mean, they did a great job. They were out there early Monday morning. They were tearing it still up on Tuesday. The asphalt's been poured, painting posts and nets and things like that. I'm just really impressed. They did a great job. And then thank you all for signing off on the playground assembly cost. So we'll get our new playground equipment assembled in Dressler Park, and that should really put that park up to speed. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Gray.
I just want to say, yeah, as well, congratulations to Andrew. Good job. But more so, I want to thank staff and congratulate staff. It's been a little bit of turmoil going on here. And everything has run absolutely seamless from my standpoint. I'm hoping, from the directors and stuff, it's the same with you guys. It's really neat to see that, the agency, the county didn't come to a screaming halt because one person was displaced. So thank you.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to point out that this Saturday, the Dayton Senior Center is having a bake sale. So if you're in the Dayton area and want something good to eat, stop by there. And if anybody has a low-level federal record for cannabis, President Biden just pardoned everybody. So.
Anyways, good job today, Andrew.
Just in time to vote.
We do have a closed session today.
That was, boy, if you start answering my questions before I ask them.
He's good.
I take back my comment regarding Mr. Haskin.
Andrew, the honeymoon's over.
Right? Wow, you fell into that one quickly because that was exactly my next question. Anyways, so we do have a closed session. So with that being said, I'm going to go to our final public participation. So this is anything that was not on the agenda. Do I have anybody for public participation? Seeing none, nobody's jumping up. Okay, then we are adjourned
Session.
for the closed session.